Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the ABC podcast. My name is Alex, and I'm joined, as always, or almost always, by Brand the Builder Park.
Brand the Builder?
Yeah.
Okay, this time, it was a little bit weak this time.
Oh, well, that's because you don't get the reference. It's not a Bob the Builder reference, it's a Game of Thrones reference.
I mean, I get it. It's just... Yeah, it was okay. Okay, it was okay.
Well, I guess I was going to have an off week eventually.
Welcome to the life of comedians.
Yeah. Are we comedians? I don't think we're comedians.
I don't think we're anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
At this point, we're just like, we're nothing. Welcome to our lives.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're new to this show, welcome. And now you know that we have really low self-esteem. That's
always.
Basically the gist of the podcast.
Pretty much.
And we just talk about random stuff. So we've got a regular show. Not the regular show, but a regular show. We've got old stuff to cover. New stuff to cover.
A lot of old stuff.
Yeah.
Some new old stuff. Some old new stuff.
Yeah. You guys know how this goes. So... before we get into anything else, we're going to start with a new subscription box unboxing. I feel like it's been a long time.
It actually has been a while. What was the last time we had?
I guess it would have been the DC TV box from Legion of Collectors.
Was it really?
I think so.
Maybe you're right.
Either that or the Star Wars one.
Either way, man, let's get started.
Okay, so if you don't know what this is, so Funko makes the pop vinyl toys or collectible figures, as well as a few others, but pop vinyls are the most popular. And they have a subscription box service similar to Loot Crate, where every other month they'll send you a box full of goodies. So they have a Marvel box, a DC box, and a Star Wars box. And the June box is Marvel, and it is themed Women of Power, which is a pretty nondescript theme, I would say. I just feel like they could do, a lot with it. It doesn't really tie them down to one, franchise.
That's true.
So, anyway,
let's get started.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and describe the box?
So, on the top of the box, it has a picture of Spider-Gwen's face. If you don't know who Spider-Gwen is, it's Gwen Stacy from an alternate timeline. And in that alternate timeline, instead of her dying, Peter Parker dies, and she becomes the spider superhero. So hence Spider-Gwen. And just around the sides, it's nothing too complex. One side of the box has Marvel Collector Core, Woman of Power. The side, once again, just another Marvel logo. The back has a big number.
That's
powered
my
by
apartment
Funko.
number.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Can I tell the people?
Sure.
BB0E. No, I'm sorry. I'm kidding. It's upside down. I'm not gonna tell anybody your apartment number.
I'm sure they can figure it out now. Whatever.
Excuse me from trying to save you from stalkers. Oh yeah. Oh, he wants you to keep going. On the side, it's again Marvel Collector Core. Apartment 3309. I mean 3099. Anyways, let's open up the box. So, on the top of the lid, it has a couple of characters. One of them being Spider-Gwen. Alex almost just stabbed me with his knife.
That was an accident.
One part is Black Widow. Another part is Captain Marvel, I believe. Right here, it has She-Hulk.
Okay.
And at the corner is Thor. But it's Thor in woman form.
Yeah.
Alex can explain it to you guys in the next podcast.
Secret Wars.
Yes.
Just keep it at that.
Secret Wars.
Okay, so every box comes with a patch and a pin. The patch is, I think it's Kamala Khan, right?
I have no idea, man. I can't even tell.
I think it's the new Miss Marvel. And then the pin is Spider-Woman. So, yep, that's cool. I guess that means we're not getting a Spider-Woman pop.
What do you think you're going to get?
Well, I believe I already saw a pop from the box.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Spoilers, man.
Yeah, I know.
Spoilers.
It sucks. That's what I get for being on social media all the time. Anyway, and then inside for the main stuff, so we got a little flyer for teasing everything in the box.
Is that Squirrel Girl?
Box.
Dude, it's Squirrel Girl.
Well, great. Now we don't even get to see it. Anyway, and then the t-shirt.
Ooh.
So it's not black. That's awesome. It's
I know.
a nice heather gray.
Nobody's going to see your dandruff.
Well, yeah, one of my favorite color t-shirts. And
has a big old picture of Spider-Gwen's
it's
face.
the same as the top of the box.
Essentially, yeah.
But it says Spider-Gwen on the bottom. It's very simplistic.
But I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's very, very, very simplistic.
Did you find some dandruff?
No. Okay, and then we've got a variant cover comic from Civil War II. And it has Miss Marvel, Elektra, Spider-Woman, the other, or Miss Marvel? Or no, sorry. The first one is Captain Marvel, and then this is Miss Marvel. Why do they make it so confusing?
Dude, I don't know, man.
And then, I don't even know who this is.
Is it a Valkyrie?
Maybe. I don't know.
That's a good question. I only assume it's a Valkyrie because of the braids and sword.
Yeah. Anyway, and then, so we got 2 mystery minis. So we got She-Hulk and Captain Marvel. So, mystery minis are another toy line that Funko produces. And we got mystery minis in the second Collector's Core box, which was themed after Ant-Man. And those were pretty cool. So there was a total of 4. So you got 2 in one box. And then if you wanted the other 2, you either had to, buy another box or trade with your friend, or do what I did and buy them on eBay. So there was Ant-Man, Unmasked Ant-Man, Blacked Out Ant-Man, and Yellow Jacket. And if I refer to my little pamphlet that I got in the box, it looks like those are the only 2 mystery minis, so I don't have to worry about tracking down the other ones. Now, other than those 4 mystery minis that I have, I don't collect the other mystery minis because I'm not really into blind boxes and stuff like that. It's just too much, stress and hassle.
Oh my gosh, your life is so difficult.
Anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and open these.
Dude, you gotta be careful with this knife. It's just hovering over me.
Just like Damocles.
Oh, very nice. I've always wanted a black plastic bag.
So there's a lot of plastic crinkling going on right now, and I apologize in advance if I can't edit all of it out.
So I just opened my bag up, and I have the Miss Marvel variant. I gotta say, the detail on this figure is pretty cool. It has her on a bobblehead, and in her hands it has her energy blast that she can project from her hands. And I mean, there's not too much of the figure, it's more for display, but I really, really like it. It's very, very clean looking. The eyes are painted on pretty well. Color is really good on it too. And I think Alex has She-Hulk, yeah.
Yeah. So the other one's
She-Hulk.
She looks green. That's all I have to say.
Amazing commentary.
Yep.
Tell me more.
She has purple fists.
Of justice.
Gloves. And she's wearing a onesie and yellow or white boots. Anyway, but then the main attraction is the pop vinyl, which Brandon already spoiled for us. And it is, in fact, the spoiler that I got on the Twitters. And that would be Squirrel Girl, the girl who likes squirrels. I don't really know much about Squirrel Girl other than that she's kind of a joke, but she doesn't like when people take her as a joke.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure how Marvel created her. She appears randomly from time to time. I know she's beaten incredibly powerful foes. Like, she's beaten Thanos at one point.
Of course.
She's beaten Deadpool. It just shows you the power of the squirrel.
Yep.
That should be a sigil on Game of Thrones.
It could be.
The squirrel.
It might be. I don't know.
What could be the motto be?
I don't know.
These nuts.
Oh my God.
And is that it?
Yeah. Well, actually, this isn't. That's all the stuff in the box, but there's some more designs on the inside. So we've got a Spider-Gwen swinging around. We got a close-up shot of Lady Thor. We've got Black Cat, Medusa, I'm kind of disappointed. That was the only representation she got in the box, was this little drawing on the inside.
Which is like, where is it?
It's on the bottom. Like,
so you wouldn't even see it.
Yeah. And then we got another Spider-Woman and another Spider-Gwen. Oh, and another Black Widow. Yeah, so Medusa kind of got shafted, but oh well, I guess. Alright, well, that wasn't my favorite box I've ever gotten from Collector's Core, but I think it's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
We got a Squirrel Girl pop. Definitely not going to complain about that. And
I do like these little mystery figures. These are the first ones I've ever seen, and I like them. I like them a lot.
I don't know. I liked the Ant-Man ones that I got just because they were like a nice little set, and because I had the corresponding pops to go with them, like all lined up, and it just looks really nice. But
I gotcha.
Yeah, these are cool. I might have to start collecting mystery minis now.
Hey, add it to your collection.
There's so many though.
You gotta start somewhere.
I guess.
I mean, when Ash started becoming, involved with Pokemon, do you think he just said, "Oh, there's so many"? No, he said, "I'm gonna catch them all."
But he hasn't, and he never will.
You never know that.
I do.
He just spends his entire life in the wilderness going after Pokemon.
And
one day they're gonna run out of Pokemon.
I really doubt it. Anyway, let's not drag this out anymore. Let's get into stuff. So before we get into the corrections, I have a few things that we need to go over. So first, I want to give a shout out to one of our newest listeners, and that would be John Paul, my brother. And he asked me to dab on the show. So here you go, John Paul. I'm dabbing. Here, I'll do it again.
You could at least do it for me.
No.
Come on, man.
Next thing.
Just sneeze.
We were at church a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and my brother was like, I'll pay you $20 if you receive communion and then dab. Actually, I think it was $5.
Did you do it?
No, I did not do it.
Just saying, it's a good way to get money.
Maybe another time. Anyway.
That thing's died down by now, right? The whole dabbing?
Yeah, I think so.
Hopefully.
Those darn kids.
I know, right?
Anyway, next thing. So we forgot.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining you doing it. You dabbed for the Lord.
No. So we forgot once again to plug our social media accounts at the end of last show. I'm gonna blame Brandon this time.
It was almost midnight.
No, it wasn't.
It was very close.
Oh yeah, but it wasn't.
Oh God.
So yeah, that's on us.
I think by now they know our social media.
You'd be surprised. Anyway. And then, now we're going to do our ABCs of Geekdom segment.
Mm-hmm.
And our letter this week is D, and it is Brandon's turn to pick.
D. Let's see. What can I do with that? I am going to go with Drogon from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Mostly because I just rewatched the last episode that came out. And I won't spoil it, but there are dragons in it. And I've really, really enjoyed how they've been portraying the dragons in Game of Thrones. Mostly because dragons are my favorite mythological creature.
Okay.
What's yours?
My favorite mythological creature?
Yes.
Dragons are definitely up there.
Yeah, for me it's always been the dragon. I'm not sure why. Maybe because they could breathe fire. Maybe because they're big, like, lizards. Maybe because they could fly most of the time. I don't know, but I've always loved dragons.
Dragons are pretty rad.
Plus, his color scheme is one of my favorite color combinations, black and red.
What about black and yellow?
What do I look like to you? I'm not
An
with,
Asian?
Really? Anyways, if you guys don't know, or you don't follow Game of Thrones, Drogon is one of the 3 dragons that Daenerys Targaryen has.
No, say her full title.
Her full title? Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, Breaker of Chains, Khaleesi to the Dothraki, and then that's as far as I get. I know it's, Queen of Marine, a bunch of other ones. Yada yada yada. Unburnt.
King of the First Men and
Mother
the
of Dragons.
Mother of Dragons. Yeah,
she
just loves those titles.
To be fair, they're pretty badass titles.
Yeah, that's true.
If I was in her place, I would totally have my titles be told all the time. It would be an obnoxious thing, but I mean, come on now. So Drogon is one of her dragons. The other two, I don't remember their names. Oh, I know their names. I can't pronounce them.
Rhaegal and
Viserion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which are named after her brothers.
Yep.
And Drogon is named after her husband, or late husband, Khal Drogo.
Yep.
Drogon is the most ferocious and biggest of the three. He's also incredibly aggressive. He basically went through puberty in season 4, I think, right?
Yes.
And season 5, he's just been that kid that's been away from
really
home.
angsty teen, yeah.
Until he comes back and he saves his mom.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that. But
Yeah,
it's totally true.
Yeah. It's like when she's out in Marine and she looks up at the pyramid and Drogon's just waiting there. It's like, "What's up, Mom? Just came to do my laundry." "All right, Mom, we're gonna go fly away." And then when he comes back to save her, it's like, "I'm here, Mom." And then by season 6, he is like twice as big as he was in season 5. And I just love the designs of the dragons on Game of Thrones. They look incredibly realistic. So much so that whenever I watch them on screen and I'm like, I want my own dragon. What am I going to do to get my own dragon?
But do you know how to train your dragon?
You know, I've never seen those movies.
I saw the first one.
How was it?
It was fine.
It was fine.
Yeah, it was. By the time I watched it, it was not really in my age demographic. Like, I wasn't the kind of viewer they were targeting. Like, it wasn't a bad movie. I did not like it, but I didn't get the
You wouldn't connect
hype.
to it, if you were at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, Drogon. He has the basic powers of a dragon. He can fly.
Breathe fire.
He can breathe fire. I love the way they breathe fire. Do you ever notice? Okay, as you know, I always pay attention to those small details.
Yeah. You're talking about like the 2 jets.
Yeah, so they have these 2 tubes in their throat, and whenever they breathe fire, they eject from there. Also,
it was like that in Harry Potter.
That's true, but what I was gonna say was there's a little thing that comes on before they breathe. Their throat kind of rattles and vibrates, so it makes this really cool sound. Only I would notice something like that. I know. But yes, that was my D, Drogon.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
And I didn't have to say anything because you basically said everything there was to say.
See, I'm catching up with Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can have a Game of Thrones party.
Okay. Pin the head on the Ned.
Oh, that's bad. Did you just come up with that right now?
Yeah.
Nice! Man, what if Ned Flanders was Ned Stark?
That would be a very different show.
Yeah, right?
There would be no Jon Snow.
You never know that. He probably would just accepted him into his own.
I guess.
And when he sees King Robert, well, hi dilly ho. That's the reason they executed him. He's just too friendly in King's Landing.
Alright, let's get down to the nitty gritty. We've got old stuff to cover.
It's a lot of old stuff.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago when I said we had a lot of old stuff, well, I have even more this week.
Oh, gosh.
So,
just get this over with.
Yeah. Alright, so first of all,
if I don't talk for a while, you understand why.
So first of all, our ABC's segment last week, I did Carl Grimes from The Walking Dead. And so I was talking about his father, Rick Grimes, and so he's actually not the sheriff, he was a sheriff's deputy. And they never say the county, or at least I couldn't find anywhere on Wikipedia that told me what county he worked for. So, somewhere in Georgia, that's all we know.
Georgia, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the first season, maybe the first 2 seasons even, they're trying to get to Atlanta. What?
Nothing.
Okay.
It's too stupid even for this broadcast for me to say.
And then, so, at the very beginning of the show, he was put into a coma, and it lasted for an indeterminate amount of time. Not 1 month, like I said last week. And it was not from a car accident. It was, he was in a shootout with some criminal, and, yeah. Okay, so last week I was telling this story about a quiz that I took my sophomore year after we were doing
Greek stuff.
Yeah. I don't even remember why we were talking about this though.
What about this?
Yeah.
Oh, because I was talking about how when I was taking quiz or tests.
Oh, right.
My ethics professor put a question about The Walking Dead. And I wrote coral all around the edge of the paper.
Now I remember. Okay, so I took this quiz, and I remembered that it was a section on, because we were reading Julius Caesar, so it was actually about ancient Rome, not ancient Greece. So that's a very important thing to correct. Next,
you too, Alex.
So the week before that, Brandon, for the ABC segment, picked Bulbasaur. And so I was talking about some moves that Bulbasaur improvised throughout Ash's using him in the show. And so in the first episode that Bulbasaur was in, Ash tried to catch Bulbasaur, and he used his Butterfree he got his Butterfree to use Sleep Powder.
Oh, his Butterfree, huh?
Mm-hmm. And Bulbasaur then blew it away. And he used the move Whirlwind, he was told to use the move Whirlwind, not Gust, which is also a move, but they are different moves. And then later on, in another episode, Ash told Bulbasaur to use Lick on a Psyduck. I think it was Misty's Psyduck, but I'm not 100% on that. Lick is a Ghost-type move that Bulbasaur does not learn. And then Ash also told Bulbasaur to use Tickle on Psyduck, and Tickle is also a move, but it was not introduced until Generation 3, which was long before this episode premiered. So, and then the last thing about Bulbasaur is that last time I said that the article didn't mention anything about Bulbasaur using Dig, but it actually does say that, but it mentions how Bulbasaur doesn't learn Dig. So, Ash's Bulbasaur should be dead. Now you all know that. It's the sad truth.
He's one of a kind.
Not really.
You never know.
Well, actually, he has like this little forehead pattern that other Bulbasaurs don't have, just to tell him apart from
every other Bulbasaur.
Basically. It's like, remember Richie? He was this other kid on the show, and he had a Pikachu.
Yes, I do.
And his Pikachu had like this little like
tough,
like spiky hair thing going on. And he also had a different voice, like a noticeably different voice.
The Pikachu?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
Yep. Good old Richie. He never came back after like the Orange Islands, I think.
Really? Good. I hated him.
Why?
He was a jerk.
Not really.
Not kidding.
Okay, so next we were talking about actors in the Mighty Ducks movie. And so last week I said his name was Elden Hudson, and I don't know why I thought that. I totally misread it. His name is Elden Henson. So his first acting gig, according to IMDb, was on As the World Turns, and he played a character named Paul Ryan. Not to be confused with the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan.
Okay.
So he appeared on 2 episodes, one episode in 1982 and one episode in 1985. And
that's a 3-year difference.
Yeah. That's how soap operas work, man.
Okay.
And just as a fun fact, Elden Henson was born in 1977, so he was 5 years old the first time he appeared on the show. And his first movie that he appeared in was Jaws: The Revenge, which is the 3rd movie in the Jaws franchise.
It's not a good movie.
Have I seen it? I definitely saw the first 2. I don't know if
it's
I saw
not
the
a good
one.
movie.
Okay. Do you like Jaws?
The original one?
Yeah.
Yes. It scared me as a kid, though.
Oh, I see. I didn't see it till I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
Well, I think I saw like bits and pieces of it.
I see. Yeah, I saw bits and pieces, and it freaked me out as a kid because.
Right.
I mean.
Sure.
Yeah. And it was until I was in like middle school that I finally saw it, and I found out it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But now there's a new shark movie coming out called The Shallows with Blake Lively.
Oh yeah.
That thing looks terrifying.
I thought you meant Sharknado 4.
Of course. Yeah, that too. What's gonna be a Sharknado 5? They come in. There's gonna be like shark aliens.
And, so the character that Elden Henson played in Jaws the Revenge was additional voices. But he was credited in the movie, so that counts.
Hey, that actually does. I mean...
And I think he's come a long way since then.
You could say that.
Yeah. I mean, but we've talked enough about Foggy Nelson, so...
Senor Foggy. Avocados and law. I almost bought a shirt that said that.
Oh, you're talking about the one with, like, the glasses and the long hair? Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Well,
okay,
whatever happened to those two?
Well, I guess we'll find out in season 3.
You know how they make up? Avocados.
He just, like, brings him a big bowl of guacamole.
Yeah. It's like, we good? Yeah, we're good. This costs extra, right? Yep.
Friggin' Chipotle.
I love Chipotle, but it's too much for guac.
Do you want to know a funny story?
Sure.
So, I never got the guacamole just because I didn't want, like, the burrito's expensive enough as it is, and I don't want to pay for the guacamole. But one time, I had a coupon for a free burrito.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I'm getting this for free, so, I'll pay the $2 for the guacamole, or however much it is. So I'll pay the extra for the guacamole, and then I can, at least know how it was. They actually gave me the guacamole for free, so I got the whole meal for free.
Ooh, look at you.
And that was a mistake, because it was really, really good. And now every time I'm like, oh, I want the guacamole, but I want to pay for it, and I never get it, but...
I've had it, like, one time. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's still really good.
Yeah, it's good. It's just it's too expensive.
Yeah,
in my
no,
opinion.
I
in my
agree.
opinion,
I
it's too
agree.
expensive.
I'll just take it home and open it up and put my own guacamole in there.
You just make it at home, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
This podcast brought to you by Chipotle. Eat fresh, or whatever their... Do they have a slogan?
That's a good question. Man, I eat there every week. I have no idea. Literally, I have Chipotle almost every Saturday.
TFTI.
What am I supposed to do?
I don't know.
It's my Chipotle.
Also, that was a joke, in case you didn't get that. We are not sponsored by Chipotle. If you want to sponsor us, that would be awesome. We accept payment in cash or burritos. But in the meantime, we have no affiliation with Chipotle.
Not yet.
Moving on. Pokemon Platinum version was released in 2009. So that was when I was a junior in high school, because they typically come out in the fall. So, long before I met Armando. And I thought of some other alternate Rotom forms. Now, I just thought of appliances that a Rotom could theoretically take possession of. I don't know what typing they would be, which is kind of the whole point of the different forms, is that he has these unique types. But some good ones that I thought of were Calculator Rotom, Lamp Rotom,
Okay.
Computer Rotom,
That would be good.
and a Car Rotom.
Nice.
Yep.
Let's see, what would I pick? Probably a lawnmower.
There already is a lawnmower.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Dang. Never mind. I'll just make it do my
What about
chores.
a DVD player?
Dude,
or a Blu-ray player,
I was
guess.
going to say.
Or a
People-
TV, there's no TV.
Yeah, that's true. But then, I don't know, would you get tired
Of what?
just being a TV? Wait, I'm going to turn off now.
I feel like you'd get tired of being an oven. I don't feel like baking your cookies anymore. It just like spits it back out at you. Moving on. So, Core Enforcer is the special move that Zyard Complete Form uses. It's the one where he flies up in the air and he shoots the Z laser down. So, it did not show if it was super effective on his opponent, which was a Garchomp in the trailer that it showed. But,
Oh, see, speaking of sharks, Garchomp.
yeah, I would watch Garchomp-nado. That would be an interesting movie. But earlier in the trailer, it showed the Zygarde 10% form, the dog-looking one, using two moves, 1,000 Waves and 1,000 Arrows, which we know from the game's code are ground-type moves. And he was using it on a Metagross, and Metagross is a Steel Psychic, so it is weak to ground-type moves, but it didn't show if it was super effective on Metagross or not. So the fact that it didn't show if Core Enforcer was super effective does not necessarily mean that it isn't. So, I think it's a dragon type move. I don't know what other type of move it would be. I mean, I guess it could be a ground type move theoretically, but I'm going to say dragon just because that's different.
Because we're talking about dragons.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all the Pokemon stuff for now. I've got more later.
Oh, my goodness.
So last week we were talking about how Cedric Diggory was turned into a vampire and became Edward Cullen.
Yeah.
And so I was saying how I wonder if there were any actors who were in the Harry Potter movies and the Twilight movies. Turns out there's an actor named Jamie Campbell Bower. He played Grindelwald in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also Caius of the Volturi in the Twilight movies.
What?
Yep. So there you go.
Oh, no.
Theory confirmed. Twilight and Harry Potter are totally in the same universe.
No.
You're welcome.
See? I knew this would happen if you kept digging, Alex. This is why you stop while you're ahead.
Nah.
That's pretty cool, though.
Okay, next. So we were talking about lightsabers.
Oh, God. I need this
So
coming.
lightsabers are powered by crystals, but it's not one type of crystal. There's a ton of different types of crystals, and I'm not about to go and list every single one. Just Google lightsaber crystals and go on Wikipedia. That'll be as much information as you can handle. More information than I could handle. But we were also talking about the lightsaber colors and what they mean. So I found this handy little graphic that tells me things.
I don't even know how accurate this thing is, man.
I choose to believe it. It's from Reddit. So
I guess
Reddit's
maybe.
not the most reliable source, but I think it's pretty reliable.
It could be worse.
Yeah. So anyway, green lightsabers are more force focused. They're for people who prefer negotiation and peaceful means.
Until negotiations fail.
Yes. So they are for more force-based users. Red lightsabers are made with synthetic lightsaber crystals, and that's why they're more powerful but more unstable. And then blue lightsabers are for more combat-focused people. I believe that last week I mixed the green and the blue meanings around, but I'm not 100% on that. And then purple, and I'll cut it off at purple. They are for Jedi who use both light side and dark side techniques. So Mace Windu is not a 100% clean dude. Anyway, that's it for lightsabers. Like I said, they really don't touch on this much at all in the movies. It's really only extended universe stuff, so you can care about it as much or as little as you really want to. But I think it's kind of interesting, but there's just so much stuff that at a point it just becomes kind of ridiculous.
That's what happens when you get dedicated to a lore.
That is very true.
You just put details onto everything.
Yep. So in Star Wars The Force Unleashed, the video game, the main character, his name is Starkiller, and he was the son of two Jedi, actually. I thought just his father was a Jedi, but it's actually two different Jedi. Mm-hmm. And so the mother's name was Mali, and the father's name was Kento Merrick. And they both... So they actually... The reason why they survived the Jedi... the Order 66 was because they fell in love and got married, and then because they knew that the council would not approve of their marriage, they decided to leave and they moved to Kashyyyk. But Yoda was there in episode 3, so it's like, wouldn't he have sensed that they were there and been like, hey guys, what's up?
Maybe, but did they ever explain when they did that? Was it during the Clone Wars, or?
Yes.
It was during the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I guess maybe at that point they already disassociated themselves with the Jedi.
I guess. I don't know. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter because The Force Unleashed isn't canon anymore. Yeah. So, oh well. Moving on. Speaking of Order 66 and the Jedi Purge, which are apparently different, I couldn't really find out what the difference was, but on the Star Wars Wikia, there are 2 different pages for Order 66 and the Jedi Purge.
Really?
So Yeah, I don't know what the difference is, because I read both of the summaries and they sounded the same to me, but I don't know. Anyway, also in the Star Wars Wikia, there's a page that is dedicated to Jedi who survived Order 66 and the Jedi Purge, and there are a total of 92 Jedi who managed to survive both, which is unreal.
Why is that unreal?
Because it just takes away from the coolness factor of Obi-Wan and Yoda.
Compared to how many Jedi there used to be?
Yeah. Because you're not even introduced to 92 Jedi throughout the entire prequel. Like, they make it seem like there's, like, 50 Jedi or something left in the whole galaxy. Or universe or whatever. Like, they make it seem like the Order is super, super small.
They ratified that in the Clone Wars.
Well, I haven't seen it.
Well, put it on your to-do list.
It is. But I don't know, it just...
I mean, look how big the Clone Wars were. They spanned the entire galaxy.
I mean, I guess, but I don't know. That's just the problem I have with retconning, I guess, is that it just... In the original trilogy, like, the Jedi Order seemed like something really, like, mysterious and, like, you know, like, a pseudo-religion, like, is what people considered it. Because, you know, the ways of the Force had been lost because of what happened. And then, you know, they came back and they had the prequel trilogy to explain the downfall of the Jedi Order. But even in the prequels, it seemed like the Jedi Order was in serious decline. Like, they were almost at the point of extinction.
Because it was near the end of the Age of the Republic.
Right, but then Order 66 comes along, but there's still 92 Jedi who survived, even though it doesn't seem like there are 92 Jedi left.
Even after that, a lot of them ended up dying out. Because they either chose to fight the Empire or Vader ended up fighting them.
I guess. I don't know, man. I just... Maybe...
I mean, I definitely understand where you're coming from, but...
I think I'm just too old.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, these darn kids with their darn universe-expanding cartoons that I can't keep up with.
Your powers are weak, old man.
Alright, let's move on. So, in the Amazing Spider-Man movie, Peter Parker attends Midtown Science High School, as opposed to in the Spectacular Spider-Man, he attends Midtown Manhattan Magnet High School.
It's still in Midtown.
Well, yeah, but that's not the important part. Next, so John Williams, because you asked last time, I looked it up for you. John Williams was born on February 8th, 1932, which makes him 84 years old. Great. As of 2016.
Now I can die peacefully.
Yep. And then, so I was searching on Twitter to find out where Brandon ranked among all Brandon Parks. So, like I said last time, he was 16th on the search results, and I went and I counted the number of search results that came up when I typed in Brandon Park. There were 108 user accounts on Twitter with the name, either the name or the Twitter handle Brandon Park, somewhere in there, which puts you in the top 15% of all Brandon Parks.
Oh!
In contrast, when I searched Alex Correjo, I was number 1.
Damn
so
you.
Suck on that.
That's disgusting.
But in fairness, there were only a total of 5 accounts.
Really?
Yep.
I would expect there to be at least, I don't know, 90 Alex Correjos on Twitter.
No, I can be the only one.
You're a dying race.
Okay, moving on. So, last week we were talking about the Moana quote-unquote trailer.
It was a trailer.
Whatever, anyway. And so I was talking about how she only had one line in the trailer.
Yeah.
And it was, not It was, she said, after Maui told his little story and did his little dance.
Maui again.
Yep. And then also, something pretty important we forgot to talk about is that the music, I don't know if it's completely or at least partially, but Lin-Manuel Miranda, known for Hamilton fame, he is involved in the music for this movie. So, that's going to make some people happy.
Not you.
It doesn't make me unhappy.
You don't care for Hamilton.
I don't not care for Hamilton.
Hey,
look, if somebody offered me
your tweets say otherwise, man.
If somebody offered me a plane ticket to New York and tickets to Hamilton, I would go. But other than that, I'm like, okay, whatever. So, Donald Glover, who was recently cast in the Spider-Man Homecoming movie, he played a character on Community, and his name was Troy Barnes. Couldn't remember his last name in the previous episode. And he did, in fact, appear shirtless on Community.
The fact that you went back to look this up.
We didn't remember, and I had to know.
I don't even want to know how you looked this up.
I Googled shirtless Donald Glover on Community, and it came up. And he was shirtless on a Halloween episode when he dressed up as Sexy Dracula. And I must say, he is in very good shape. So he could definitely be a hero in Spider-Man Homecoming.
That's true.
Yep. Actually, I found out there's an entire Tumblr account dedicated to shirtless Donald Glover.
Don't even get me started on Tumblr.
I don't have a Tumblr.
I don't either. I've always wanted to make one, but I hear you get into some weird crap on that place.
Yeah, I hear that too. I get into enough weird crap on Twitter and researching stuff for this show.
I bet.
Moving on. So, speaking of Spider-Man, so Mary Jane Watson was first mentioned in the Amazing Spider-Man comics in issue number 15, which came out in August of 1964. Her first appearance was in issue 25 in June of 1965, but her face was obscured by a plant because they were trying to build suspense. Her first full-on appearance, when she was introduced to Peter Parker, was in issue 42, which came out in November of 1966. Now, Peter graduated from high school in issue 28, which came out in September of 1965, and he started attending Empire State University in issue 31, which came out in December of 1965. So, in answer to our question last week, Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker met each other while Peter was in college, not in high school. I went to a lot of trouble to do that research.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
That's what I'm here for. Moving on. So we were talking about E3 and God of War and Kratos. And so something that I had thought of before the show, but I forgot to mention last week, was that Kratos is the newest installment of this trend of familiar characters who are getting new games, but they're older and they have beards. So in Street Fighter V, we got a new costume for the main character, Ryu. I'm sure you know Ryu. If you don't know him, just Google Street Fighter, Ryu from Street Fighter, and you'll see him and you'll know him. So anyway, in Street Fighter V, there was, I believe that it was a GameStop exclusive costume where he is shirtless and has a beard. Like he was like training in the mountains or something and he just wasn't shaving. And then in Mortal Kombat X, which takes place farther in the future after the events of Mortal Kombat, the game before that. The original Mortal Kombat came out in, I don't know when it came out. And in 2011, they came out with a new game, which they also called Mortal Kombat. Most fans called it Mortal Kombat 9 because it was the 9th entry in the series. So the game after that was called Mortal Kombat X because X is the Roman numeral for 10. So, yeah. So, Mortal Kombat X, the storyline took place several years after the events of Mortal Kombat 9. I want to say like 20, because two of the main characters, Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade, they have a daughter named Cassie, and she's well into her adulthood, so it's a long time after Mortal Kombat 9. And so Sub-Zero, who, he's a dude, and he doesn't like Scorpion. That's all the characterization you need to know. He becomes the leader of this ninja clan, I guess, called the Lin Kuei, and he's grown a beard too in the intervening time between Mortal Kombat 9 and Mortal Kombat X. And Kratos, we talked last time about his crazy new beard. So I just think that's a weird trend, and I wonder who we're going to see get a beard next.
That's a good question. I mean,
I just
maybe Maybe Link's gonna get a beard.
I was gonna say I want to see Master Chief just like have a beard like on the outside of his helmet,
or like he takes up the helmet and the beard's so bushy, it just covers his entire head. I could definitely see that.
Yeah. Or there's gonna be a new Gears of War game.
Mm-hmm. Actually, the trailer for it, Marcus Phoenix has a beard.
Really?
He makes an appearance at the very end of the trailer. He has a beard.
Well, there you go. The trend continues.
Fear the beard.
So, speaking of God of War, God of War 3...
Sorry.
God of War 3 was released on March 16th, 2010. So that was the...
Jeez, really?
Yeah. That is chronologically the most recent game in the God of War timeline. The most recent God of War game to have come out was God of War Ascension, which is a prequel to the entire God of War. Well, it's chronologically takes place before God of War 1.
Yeah.
That was released on March 12th, 2013. So it's been a while since we had the last God of War game. It's been, like we were saying, like Brandon just said, it's been a really long time since God of War 3. So
have you seen the remastered graphics for God of War 3?
No.
It's definitely some things you can tell have been more placed into high definition.
Oh, I believe it.
But in comparison, God of War 3 by itself holds up really, really well.
Yeah.
They're just very, very minor details that were changed. But other than that, it holds up very, very well visually.
Good to know.
I mean, why else would you dare challenge the God of War?
In Injustice, Ares has one of my favorite quotes. It's his... I believe it's his entrance quote. So every character, whenever they enter the battlefield, they'll have a quote to...
So
yeah. And so Ares is one of my... probably my favorite. He says, "Only a fool would challenge me at my own game."
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
Or maybe it's his ending quote. I don't remember.
Man, if we could like mod to bring Kratos into Injustice...
That would be sick.
He doesn't even have any dialogue except for Ares. In the middle of the fight, he just shouts, "Ares!"
Okay, so moving on. So, last week we were talking about the Blades of Chaos and how they worked in combat and how I want them to come back in the new game, yada yada yada. But, something that I kind of knew in the back of my head, but I didn't want to bring it up, and Brandon didn't say anything either, is that he actually only has the Blades of Chaos in the 3 main games. He only has those in the first game. So after Kratos kills Ares in God of War 1, he is granted the Blades of Athena, because Kratos was given the Blades of Chaos by Ares after he becomes his servant as a killing machine, and so they were fueled by bloodlust and evilness, and so Athena didn't want to have those, so she gave him the Blades of Athena, which look and function the same, but they have happy feelings or something.
Well, that and because Ares granted the Blades of Chaos to Kratos, so when the final boss battle happens in God of War, he just takes them away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, but then he uses the giant sword.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that kind of sounds familiar.
So after that's when Athena gives him the Blades of Athena.
Okay.
Which essentially are the same thing.
Yeah.
Just
and then
with a different name.
So Kratos goes through all of God of War 2 with the Blades of Athena, and then in the beginning of God of War 3, so we actually forgot to mention last time that in addition to killing all of the gods of Mount Olympus, he also kills several or all of the Titans.
That's true. Which the Titans didn't even really do anything in God of War 3. They climbed the mountain and then they fell off.
Well,
that's really about it.
That's because they want Kratos to do everything.
That's
and
true.
By they, I mean the game developers.
The Titans were really nerfed, man.
Yeah, well.
They were just essentially giant elemental potatoes that went up the mountain.
So anyway, in the beginning of God of War 3, your on Gaia is back. She's climbing up Mount Olympus, and Kratos cuts her arm off, and then he fights with Poseidon, and he kills Poseidon, but he also falls off Mount Olympus and falls into River Styx. And in doing so, he loses all of his powers, and the Blades of Athena rust. And so then Athena gives him new weapons called the Blades of Exile, which he then uses for the rest of God of War 3.
Which function in the same way that the other two blades function.
Yeah.
Literally the only changes in design and...
slight aesthetic differences.
Yes, very slight visual design. and the name changed. But other than that, they function the same way. He swings them around on chains.
Yep.
And screams.
And then speaking of chains, so Brandon mentioned this last time, and I went back and I watched the video to confirm, and it is in fact true. So the chains are really what are bound to Kratos by Ares. So the blades are interchangeable, but he's still cursed with the chains. But after he kills Zeus, because his revenge is completed, basically. After he kills Zeus, the chains just fall off, and he is freed from the curse.
God of War 3, Revenge of the Kratos.
Yep. So, man, I really love that game. It's so much fun. All of those games are, but God of War 3 especially. They just take the violence and the visual
to whole new levels. Yeah. I was watching the cutscenes this past week. Just cause. Yeah. And man, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite god-killing moment?
My favorite god-killing moment? That's a good question. It's either with Helios, when you rip off his head.
Yeah.
Or Hermes, when you rip off his legs.
Yeah. Pretty brutal.
Yeah. And the problem with Hermes is whenever I watch him now, I keep thinking of Hermes Conrad from Futurama. And I keep thinking that Hermes is going to start talking with a Jamaican accent. And then I found out Hermes Conrad was a limbo champion, which apparently was a thing in the future. And then the boy that died.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Hermes feels guilt about that. You know, it was like, it had nothing to do with it. Look, Hermes gonna be like you. No, boy! Your backbone can't take it. It's too low. I'm just like, Hermes. I'm just like, ah! It's like, no! I don't know why that was so funny. Maybe because one of my favorite things in cartoons is when a character will really dramatically go, no! Either if it's a funny moment or a serious moment, I just always love them.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So that's it for God of War 3. Moving on.
Wait, actually, what is your favorite god-killing moment?
Oh, right, I didn't say it. So the Hermes one is pretty good, but I would have to say with Hercules.
Ooh.
Because if you don't know...
See, I was just limiting myself to gods.
Well, I mean, if you want to go by Disney standards...
Yeah. No, definitely. Hercules is a very good one.
So if you don't know... So we actually talked about this a little bit last time. So Hercules has these weapons. They're gauntlets with like these lion faces on the fists. And so you fight Hercules and then you steal the gauntlets from him. And then you take them and you literally... You punch his face off.
Yeah, which... Oh, that was so brutal.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about most brutal deaths. It's either that one for me or when you battle Kronos. The Kronos battle is my favorite battle in God of War 3. Because the way that the camera angle and the cinematography changes with the whole environment.
Yeah.
Because you're literally fighting on the Titan.
Mm-hmm. It's good stuff.
And then you rip his guts out. So cool.
And then Bruce Willis is like, oh no.
This is what it feels like to die again.
If you don't get the joke, the model that they use in God of War for Kronos bears a striking resemblance to the actor Bruce Willis. Probably if you Google Kronos God of War, you could probably find it. It's pretty funny. You
can either think of that or Lex Luthor.
Which one?
The one in Injustice.
I guess.
The one in Injustice looks a lot like Bruce Willis too.
I don't know.
And he dies in that one too.
That's true. Spoilers.
He's gonna be the new Sean Bean, I tell you what.
I tell you what. Okay, moving on. So, Ed Boon, we talked about him last time. His official title at NetherRealm Studios is Creative Director. So, that's good to know. The first 3 Crash games, which are getting HD remasters coming next year. The first game is called Crash Bandicoot. The second one is called Crash Bandicoot 2. Cortex Strikes Back, and then the third one is called Crash Warped. So last week we were talking about Telltale's new Batman game, and we were talking about, how Telltale does their games, and so I mentioned really briefly that they do episodic games, but I didn't give a definition. Now, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I wanted to put it out there just so that everyone's on the same page. So episodic means that they don't release the game all at once. They put it out in installments. So about every 2 months is when they'll put out a new chapter, so to speak. They literally call them episodes. So it's like TV, except instead of every week, it's every couple months. They'll they'll release a new stuff for the game. So next, I got more Pokemon stuff. So I was talking about the new ability the ability that the new Pokemon, the Koala Pokemon has. Nekawala is his name. He has an ability called Deep Sleep, where he can only be inflicted by the sleep status, and I was talking about the other abilities in the games that prevent status conditions. And so I said that the ability I said that the ability Flame Body prevents freezing. It is in fact the ability Magma Armor that prevents freezing. Now, this is no excuse, but the reason that I got it confused is that in the Pokemon games, you can breed Pokemon, and so you have Pokemon eggs, and the eggs will hatch after you take a certain number of steps. But if you have a Pokemon in your party with either the ability Magma Armor or Flame Body, the number of steps that you have to take is halved. So that's why I got it confused, is because I just kind of lumped them together subconsciously. But they have very different effects. The ability Flame Body, in case you care, if a Pokemon uses a move that makes contact on a Pokemon that has the ability Flame Body, that Pokemon that uses the move has a 30% chance to be inflicted with the burn status. There are similar abilities in the games like Static, which is the same thing but with paralysis. There is Poison Point, which is the same thing but with the poison status. And there's Effect Spore, which is the same thing but a random status of either sleep, poison, or paralysis, I believe. I don't think burn is possible for Effect Spore. And I don't think there's one equivalent for freeze or sleep. So another new Pokemon that I talked about last week was the Pokemon Pikipek. It looks like a woodpecker. And I was listening to a podcast, the Super Effective podcast, the podcast is called It's Super Effective. And they were talking about how Pikipek was confirmed to have 2 evolutions on the stream, the Treehouse live stream. I couldn't find anywhere to corroborate that information. I found somewhere on a forum that it is confirmed to be related to at least 2 other Pokemon, which could either be 2 evolutions, or someone said that it could be a counterpart evolution kind of thing. So think of how Caterpie and Weedle are counterparts. So Caterpie evolves into Metapod, Weedle evolves into Kakuna. They're both cocoon stages, and then Metapod evolves into Butterfree, and Kakuna evolves into Beedrill, which are both flying insect things, even though Beedrill isn't flying type, doesn't have the levitate ability, but that's way beyond what we're here to talk about. So that's Pikipek for you, so we know it's going to have evolutionary relatives in some manner. And then I was talking about the Pokemon Grubbin, which does not have a new ability, but it has the Swarm ability, and I talked about all of the other abilities that the Pokemon get, even if they're not new abilities. So I didn't feel that it was fair to Grubbin to not talk about his ability. The ability Swarm is that when your Pokemon falls below when a Pokemon with the ability Swarm falls below 1/3 of its health, its Bug-type moves will be boosted in power by 50%. All of the starter Pokemon have similar abilities, so the Water types have the Torrent ability, which boosts their Water-type moves. The Fire-type starter Pokemon have the ability Blaze, which boosts their Fire-type move, and the Grass-type starter Pokemon have the ability Overgrow, which boosts their Grass-type moves. The 3 Monkey Pokemon introduced in Generation 5 have those 3 abilities as their hidden abilities, and those Pokemon are called Panpour, Simisage, and the fire one, Simisear. There we go. Oh, I'm so glad I remembered. And then the last Pokemon thing I have is that the new mythical Pokemon Magearna, Steel Fairy type, its signature move is in fact called Fluor Cannon. And I still stand by my theory that it's going to be a fairy-type move. Moving on. So, in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I was talking about a new item that you're going to have, which looks like an iPad, and your special items are going to appear out of it. That item is called the Sheikah Slate. So, it has some sort of relation to the Sheikah tribe. So, if you know anything about Zelda, or Smash Brothers, or Hyrule Warriors. So Impa is Zelda's protector. She is a member of the Sheikah, and Sheik from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Super Smash Brothers series since Super Smash Brothers Melee. He or she, however you want to, depending on how you want to take it, he is based on the Sheikah because, well, I won't say why. If you don't know, you should go play Ocarina of Time because it's really good. And consider yourself lucky because it's kind of one of those things that's like, it's so well known that like it's hard to not know about it. It's like, if you don't know that Darth Vader is Luke's father, then
where have you been this entire life? Basically.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, okay.
Ocarina of Time is my favorite Zelda game.
Ocarina is definitely up there for me. I honestly don't know what my favorite Zelda game is.
It's really hard. Yeah. I would never force anybody to make that decision.
Good, thank you.
So what's your favorite Zelda game?
Tingle's Rupee Adventure.
Nice.
That's a joke. I've never played it. I was deflecting. Okay, moving on. So, last week I was talking about the timeline placement of the new Zelda game, and so before the timeline splits, there are 4 games in the linear timeline. Last time I said it was at least 3, but it's actually 4 games. So, and then a couple of things that we neglected to talk about for the new game is that they confirmed that there's going to be voice acting in the game, which is a huge deal. Wow. People have been asking about this like since before Skyward Sword. People were like, they thought for sure that Skyward Sword was going to have voice acting.
Besides the regular
yeah, that's not voice acting. Those are sound effects.
But somebody got paid to make that noise.
That's true. So anyway, in the trailer, there's a little bit of voice acting, and they said that there's going to be more in the game, but they didn't really say how much. So most people are expecting that because it's going to be a huge game, and it's going to be really long, that they're not going to voice act every single NPC, because that just doesn't really seem like Nintendo's style. Like, I know Skyrim did that, but, you know, Nintendo and Bethesda are very different studios, and I'm fine with reading text from regular NPCs. So most people are predicting that we're only going to get voice acting in like the big cutscenes, which is fine. And yeah, Link isn't going to talk, which is awesome because nobody wins in that situation, honestly.
Who do you think could voice him though, if it ever came to that?
Nobody. We saw how that went down in the CDI games, and we're never going back to those dark ages.
I probably want Aziz Ansari to voice Link.
You are the worst kind of person. Moving on. So then the other thing that I want to talk about is that they confirmed during E3 last week.
Half-Life 3, finally. It's about damn time.
No.
Damn.
Nintendo confirmed last week that there is not going to be a female playable version of Link in the game, which a lot of people had been asking for, and they were pretty disappointed that there isn't going to be. Personally, I'm not upset about it because I was never going to play as female Zelda. I was never going to play as female Link. Or, you know, some people said they wanted a female version of Link. Other people said that they wanted to be able to play as Zelda and then have Link be, you know, the quote-unquote damsel in distress or whatever. If they made that an option, I would have been Actually, let me back up. When they first showed the trailer at E3 I guess it was last year's E3. Yeah, it was last year's E3. They showed a trailer for the Legend of Zelda Wii U game that they hadn't announced the title of yet. They showed a trailer, and Link looked very androgynous, and so people were speculating that it was going to be a female Link, and I was super resistant to the idea. I thought, oh no, this is going to ruin all the Zelda lore, and it's going to, it doesn't make any sense, and Link is this established character, and yada yada yada. But over time, I kind of softened on the idea. I realized that all it ever says is that there's a hero who is destined to save the land, and this hero wears a green tunic. It doesn't say anything about it has to be a guy, and that the Triforce of Courage has to belong to a male. So over time, I warmed on the idea, and even though I wouldn't choose to play as a female protagonist myself, I was okay with there being a female, and so I empathize with the people who are really upset about there not being a female, but at the same time, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, because I would not have made that choice personally. But I think that in the interest of equality and inclusion, and to, give the fans what they want, because that is what a company is supposed to do. They're supposed to listen to fan feedback and try and, make their requests, if they're reasonable, make them possible. And Nintendo just kind of didn't do that. So, do you have any thoughts?
It's kind of similar to how with Mass Effect, you can choose to play as the main character. You can either choose to play as female or male. And it gives you that extra option of deciding which one you would want to do.
Yeah. Just
depending on your preference. Now, it kind of differentiates because in the game, Commander Shepard, it only usually refers to by the last name. So you could choose, it could either be a man or a woman.
Yeah.
There's nothing really stopping you. It's a similar thing in Halo Reach, when you play as the main Spartan, Noble 6. There's nothing that grounds you to just one gender or anything else. So in Halo Reach, you can actually choose to play as either male or female Spartans. So I definitely see where the fans are coming from for this. See, if it was already established, like concretely established that Link was a male and they had made something like this, I feel like I would be against that, because was there really a reason to do that? It's like saying if a new Metroid game was made and you get the option to play as a male Samus.
Right, well there's a big difference between Metroid and Zelda, because Metroid is one singular timeline continuity, whereas in Zelda games there is, in the lore between most games, not every single game, but most games there's a span of hundreds of years, because it's not the same character over and over. It's a reincarnation of their spirit, because it's a metaphor for the eternal struggle between good and evil. So
if that was the case and that's the logic you go with, then yeah, you could give the reasoning behind why you would make a female Link character.
Yeah.
So I personally have nothing against that.
Right.
It's just, if you just do it for the sake of doing it, then I feel it just becomes tried and pointless.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I know everyone is kind of salty about it right now, but they're still going to get the game and they're still going to love it. So,
and you never know. Maybe in the future that would happen.
Yeah, and plus, Link, because his, elvish looks and all that, like, he doesn't look super masculine. So, I mean, in this game it's a little different because he's going to be shirtless. Like, you can play the whole game with him shirtless, and you obviously wouldn't be able to do that as a female. Well, I mean, I guess you could, but that wouldn't be in very good taste.
They would probably just have to bump up the rating.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway.
I'm not saying I'm supporting it, I'm just saying.
Do you want to move on?
Yes, please.
Okay. So on the note of Assassin's Creed, we were talking about how there's no Assassin's Creed this year. So I looked into it, and they are just taking the year off. So it's not going to be every 2 years going forward. It's just for this year that they're not releasing a new main series game. And yeah, but when I was doing that research, there were rumors that the next game is going to take place in ancient Egypt, which will be a first. And that would be a huge step back in the timeline, because the most recent one was in 1800s England, and this would be
all the way
like
back
5000 BC. So
you gotta assassinate the apocalypse. Stop the apocalypse.
Cancel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Fassbender is Magneto,
That's
and
true.
He's the main character in the new Assassin's Creed movie, so it's all one big
Cancel
universe.
the apocalypse. I would definitely have to see that. I knew in the beginning, long ago, they didn't.
Galaxy far, far away.
Yes, the developers didn't want to do ancient Egypt,
Uh-huh.
not because they thought it was anything bad, because in the storyline they mentioned that there are assassins in every time period of history. They just didn't want to do a game right there because it would seem generic.
I guess.
Because if you look at it, not most, but a lot of games and movies and TV shows, it have ancient Egypt in some point or time. So they said they weren't against it, but they would want to stay away from feudal Japan, World War II, ancient Egypt, because most media covers that time period.
Mm-hmm.
Or those time periods. So they weren't against it, but they just want to stay away from that.
Well, I guess that means they're running out of ideas.
I don't know, man. They have the entire span of history to go with. Until they run out of history, you never know. Who knows? They might make the next one with House of Cards. And Kevin Spacey was playing a character in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Turns out that, Frank Underwood's a secret assassin.
That sounds like the beginning of a very bad fanfic.
It's Frank Underwood. You can never go wrong with that.
I disagree. Anyway, so moving on. I totally forgot to talk about one of the games that I wanted to talk about last time, and that is the video game Detroit Become Human. Now, this game was not announced at this E3. It was announced, I don't know if it was last E3 or if it was another convention or what, but this was the first time that I had personally seen gameplay and really known what it's about, and I was really taken aback because it looks super interesting. So I won't say too much about it. If you want to know more, you can just get on YouTube, just Google Detroit Become Human trailer, or not Google, search. Well, is it Googling? If Google owns YouTube, is that still Googling?
Yeah, I would say it counts.
Okay. Anyway, get on YouTube, look for this trailer, and I think it's really interesting. But anyway, the premise is that you are this detective. So it takes place in Detroit, obviously, in the, I guess, near future, where there are androids who serve as housekeepers and stuff like that. If you've ever seen the movie Bicentennial Man, it's kind of like that. Have you ever seen it?
Is that one with Robin Williams? Yeah. Never finished it.
Oh, it's so good.
It's such a good movie, though.
Anyway, so basically androids, or iRobot. There's another good
I was
example.
about to mention that. Yeah. Great movie, by the way.
That's a really good movie. But anyway, so robots, androids, they serve lots of different purposes in society. And so you're the main character, and you're a android who works for the police department, and you get called to this scene where another android who was working as a housekeeper or whatever, he has taken this little girl hostage, and he's outside on the roof, or it's like a balcony.
Wait, do the androids look human?
Yeah, okay. They have skin and everything.
That's because when I haven't seen the full trailer, but I saw little bits and pieces of it. So I saw nothing that like vaguely robotic. So that's what I was asking. It's one of those cases where the androids look human. It's basically Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Android 18 and 17 and 16.
Yeah.
Do you have to fight Cell?
In this game?
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
You never know that. Yeah,
that would be a real twist at the end. Anyway, so you get called to this situation because they think that I want to say that they say that an android can reason with an android better than a human can or something. But your role is as a hostage negotiator to try and talk this android out of doing something rash with this little girl. And so it's a choice-based game, so you have to like react to these different situations and give, you're given these options about how to react. And so, for example, the other android who has the girl hostage, he says to you, he says, do you have a gun? And so you're given the option to lie and say, no, you don't, or tell him the truth and be like, yeah, it's right here, like I'm not going to use it, and you put it down or whatever. So there's a bunch of things like that. So it looks like it's going to be really replayable. Like you can, go crazy with the options. It looks like it's going to be a bunch of different endings. So it looks really, really interesting to me. And I really want to get a PS4 so I can check it out. Okay, last couple things, and then we're going to take our break. So,
dude, we're like an hour in.
So, in DuckTales, Scrooge McDuck's money bin, where he keeps all of his money, it is 3 cubic acres in dimension. So that's the volume of his money bin, just for like the treasure hoard, the building that he has like an office in there and stuff. Also, when I looked it up, I found this funny. It is on the top of Kill Motor Hill. So, don't drive up there. Also, on the Wikipedia page for Scrooge McDuck, in one episode, his accountant tells him how much wealth he has. And he has 607 tillion, 386 zillion, 947 trillion, 522 billion, and 36 cents. So, I think Scrooge beats Monty Burns. Just gonna go on a limb there. Also, last thing. So, Scrooge's rival, the other Scottish duck, his name is Flintheart Glomgold. And I found this interesting. He originally, in like the original comics when he appeared, he was South African. But when the cartoon started coming out, that was like right around the apartheid, and so they didn't want any controversy, so they made him Scottish, like Scrooge, to increase their rivalry, I guess. So there you have it. Okay, so those are all of our corrections from last week. Yay!
We finally made it an hour into the video. I mean, the recording.
We don't talk about time.
They need to know, man.
No, they don't.
They need to
No,
know
they don't.
how much time we put into this podcast. It ain't an easy thing.
Anyway, so we're going to take a break so we can do a little bit more research, because I haven't done enough research for this show. But you're going to listen to some music, and then you'll come back and listen to us talk about some news from the past week. So enjoy.
The freedom is my goal. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide. Pokémon to understand the power that's inside. Pokémon, I can sing it's you and me.
Okay, we're back. And before we get into news, I actually have a couple of things. My notes got mixed up.
Well,
So-
maybe you didn't cover your entire page with notes. This wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. So, first of all, backtracking to Spider-Man, Black Cat, her real name is Felicia Hardy.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, exactly. You remember, you saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2, right?
No.
Oh, never mind.
Thanks, Alex.
What? Well, you wouldn't get it. So anyway, last week we were talking about Injustice and the character classes. So now this is really interesting to me because I Googled Injustice character classes and all of the websites that I found only broke them into two categories.
Really?
The power characters and gadget characters. But I knew that wasn't the case. So I booted up my copy of Injustice on my Wii U and I messed around, and that's definitely, there's three distinct types of characters. So, for example, in some of the levels there are some overhead objects. In the Arkham Asylum stage, there's a TV that hangs up above you. So if you are playing as a power character, someone with super strength, like Superman, for example, if you jump up and you use the interactable button, you'll grab the TV and you'll throw it at your opponent. If you're what I'm going to call a gadget character, so like Batman, you jump up and you hit the button and you'll attach a little explosive and it'll explode and a little piece will shoot down at a diagonal angle, and if the opponent is in the path of it, then it'll get hit. The opponent will get hit. So in either scenario, the TV is obliterated. Like, you can't use that interactable anymore. But there's a third character class that I'm going to call the Acrobat class, where they'll jump up and you hit the button and they'll like grab onto it and then they'll like do a little diagonal vault down at the opponent, and if they're in the path then they'll get hit, but the TV will still be there. Now, there are some other interactables like in the corners where the power characters, so for example, in the Wayne Manor stage, there's like a car in the corner, and so if you're a power character, you'll grab the car and you'll throw it in front of you, and if the opponent's there, then they'll get hit. But if you're either of the other two classes, then you'll just jump off of it over the opponent's head and you'll land behind them. So that's the same for either the gadget characters or the acrobat characters. So the acrobat characters, let me start with the gadget characters, are Nightwing, Batman, Green Arrow, Batgirl, Joker, Harley Quinn, Catwoman, surprisingly, and Deathstroke. And the acrobat characters are Flash, Raven, Scorpion, and Killer Frost. And so then the power characters are Cyborg, Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Hawkgirl, Shazam, Martian Manhunter, Lobo, Solomon Grundy, General Zod, Lex Luthor, Ares, Doomsday, Sinestro, Black Adam, and Bane. And now, for whatever reason, the Wii U did not get the final two DLC characters that were released, which were Martian Manhunter and Zatanna. Now, Martian Manhunter, because the way his character works, I knew he was a power character. But for Zatanna, I can't say definitively whether or not she would be a gadget character or an acrobat character. Now, I would be willing to bet pretty good money that she is an acrobat character, but I don't know that for sure, so I don't want to say one way or the other. So that's all I have to say about Injustice and character classes. I don't know why they don't make the distinction, because I think it's pretty important. But
That's a good question. I don't know why either.
who knows? So anyway, that's officially the end of all of our corrections.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You got one more you want to tell us?
I can come up with something.
No!
So let's move into news. So we don't have any trailers.
I know. It's
You
weird.
said last week that we were going to have some movie trailers, but we don't.
Call me a liar. Shoot me.
Bang, bang. What was that?
My death noise.
Okay, so let's start with Spider-Man Homecoming. So they added a bunch of casts in the last week. So let's start with a kid named Abraham Attah. Is that how you pronounce
I
it?
think so.
Something like that. So he's from Beasts of No Nation, which I think is a movie.
It's a Netflix movie.
Okay. I haven't seen it. I
Guess
don't
who
know what it's
stars in
about. Abraham Attah? I don't know.
The man who canceled Apocalypse himself.
Oh my gosh.
Idris Elba. You know, we're gonna make that joke so much on the show. He's gonna have to listen to this podcast, and he'll meet us and be like, so you are the mates who've been talking about me canceling the apocalypse."
Oh, bloody hell.
Which I heard that it was a very, very good movie. Really, really hard movie.
Do you know what it's about at all?
It's about Idris Elba. He plays a African warlord who uses children soldiers.
So he's the captain now?
Yeah, yes, he is the captain now. Did you ever think about what happens if the actor who played Muse played Black Panther? He's like, fight in the middle of the fight, like, look at me, captain. I am the captain now.
Yeah, we definitely made that joke. I don't know if it was on the podcast, but we made that.
And plus, I've sent you a bunch of,
Yeah.
memes about it.
Yeah. Anywho,
Anyways.
so Abraham Attah is in this movie. They haven't announced his role, but so I saw some people who predicted that he could be Miles Morales, not Donald Glover, which would make more sense because he's a lot younger, and so that would be more in line with Peter Parker. So I could see that happening. What do you think about that?
I could see that. It didn't really cross my mind at first, though, because I've been so used to thinking about Donald Glover in that role that when he was introduced, that didn't even cross my mind at first.
I don't know.
The thing with this movie is that you really genuinely don't know who's going to play who.
Yeah. The Abraham could just be the token black friend.
I mean, they already have the token black guy with Donald Glover.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Now we get 2 token black friends?
But we don't know if Donald Glover is going to be Peter Parker's friend.
True. Maybe he's somebody on the football team, but he actually hates football.
Okay.
Do you not get it?
No.
Troy, he was on the football team,
Yeah.
but he actually hates football.
Yeah. So you think he's Flash Thompson?
Ooh, didn't even think about it like that.
That would be weird.
And then probably halfway through the movie, look, Peter, I have something to confess to you. I really hate football.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Fine.
And then we also got an actor named Michael Mondo. So he was in Better Call Saul, or let me say, as far as I know, he's still in Better Call Saul. I've only seen season 1 of Better Call Saul so
How
far.
was that, by the way?
I really like it. It's really good. It's not quite as good as Breaking Bad yet. Like, they still have, plenty of time to come into their own, but I really like season 1. So he played a relatively minor character. He was only in a handful of episodes. I don't know if he's, gonna become a bigger bad guy, but for Breaking Bad fans out there, he works for Tuco.
Oh, tight. Man, I really want to go back and rewatch Breaking Bad.
Oh, you totally should. You notice so many more things.
I
the
believe
second
that.
time.
I believe that. The writers are incredible in that show.
For sure.
Tight.
But we're not here to talk about Breaking Bad. We're here to talk about Spider-Man. So, Michael Mondo, he is Hispanic. And that's pretty much all I can say about him. He in Better Call Saul, he does a good job of being a really intimidating, silent gangster type. So, how that's going to translate into this movie, I don't know.
You see, it seems like this, which I really just don't know who's going to play who.
Yeah. And then we got another actor named Hannibal Buress.
He's also a comedian as well.
Yeah. So he was in the movie Neighbors, which I saw.
He was?
That's what this article is saying.
I don't remember him in that movie. But I've only seen Neighbors like once.
I've only seen it once. Yeah, I don't remember him in that movie either. Anyway, so not to be racist, but another black guy. So
Why you gotta call attention to that, Alex?
Well,
You could have just said like another guy.
Well, that is also true. Another guy. I think that's pretty important. And then we also got an actor named Bokeem Woodbine, who is in the TV series Fargo, which I have not seen.
I haven't seen it either.
I hear it's really, really good. I want to check it out, but I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not super motivated to watch the show.
True.
Anyway, yeah, so I guess we don't really have much to say about these dudes.
I really honestly couldn't think off the top of my head who could play who. Because they're browning. The way they say it, they have all of these actors coming in that they've been in prominent roles before. So I don't expect everybody to be a major key player in the film, but I do expect them to have some significance time of, on screen. I just can't think of anybody who could play who, because it seems like they're expanding the cast. Ooh, what if Donald Glover is Harry Osborn? I'm kidding. By the way, don't actually come into the argument. I'm just kidding.
Well, I just think of Donald Glover as such an immature person. Not like in real life, but just because that's the way I've seen him in everything I've ever seen him in.
What have you seen him in besides Community?
So Donald Glover, I first heard about him. He had this YouTube channel called Derek Comedy. They just did these funny little video skits and stuff, just like weird, random, funny things. Like, they were some of my favorite funny YouTube videos when I was first becoming accustomed to the internet. Like, there's this one called Daughters. If you've never seen it.
Oh, no.
If you've never seen it, go watch it. Every time I watch it, like, I have a side-splitting laughter because it's just so funny. He's actually, funnily enough, he's actually not Donald Glover isn't in that particular video.
I remember when you showed me that video.
You're welcome.
One of the biggest WTF moments in my life.
So anyway, Donald Glover, he's going to be in the movie, and we don't know what's going to happen. Basically, we're kind of done speculating on this movie. Like, we don't know what else there is to say, so until it's revealed who all of these people are, we're just going to tell you that they're going to be in the movie, and that's it.
Pretty much. I'm at a loss at this point. I can't think of anything else besides crazy theories.
Yeah.
I think this is how crazy theories are made.
Basically. So let's go ahead and move on. So this one's going to be short, but I thought it was interesting.
Okay.
So The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, as I guess most people call it.
Yeah.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Have you ever seen that thing? I don't know where it originated, but it's some dude is like, am I the only one who thinks that The Rock looks or that Dwayne Johnson looks like The Rock?
I've seen that before, yeah.
And it has like two pictures of The Rock now and like back when he was in the WWE or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so The Rock is in talks to play the Wolfman. So The Wolfman, if you don't know, is a classic movie. Like, I don't know when it came out, but I mean, we're talking black and white, so real old, and it's considered a classic. It's about this dude who becomes a werewolf, yada yada yada. I've seen it here in Houston. There's this theater called what is it called? The Theater Under the Stars. You know, the one across the street from the Science Museum.
Oh, Miller Outdoor Theater.
Yeah, there we go. Miller Outdoor Theater.
Great place to check out, by the way.
Yeah.
What? I like Miller Outdoor
I thought you
Theater.
said something else. So, a few years ago for Halloween, they were showing The Wolfman, and so some friends and I, we went down there and watched it, and yeah, so I don't really remember much about the movie, but I know I've definitely seen it. But very recently, within the last, I would guess, 6 or 7 years, I'm not 100% sure, maybe Brandon can look this up, but there was a remake of The Wolfman, which starred Benicio del Toro, the collector, as the main character, and Sir Anthony Hopkins as his father, I believe.
I believe so, yeah. I also had Emily Blunt as well. Hugo Weaving.
When did it come out?
This came out back in 2010.
Okay. So, yeah, pretty recently. So, this new movie, I didn't read the article. I just read the headline. So, this new movie is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a remake or a sequel or what, because it seems too soon for a remake, but I don't know what they would do with a sequel.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but...
Can you smell what the Wolfman's cooking?
No, I don't think so.
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, so... Interesting casting choice.
I think it's a new one for Dwayne Johnson, because a lot of times he gets casted in these epic, action-packed roles. And this one, it seems much more of a thriller type. So I'm not sure how he's going to pull that off. I think he could.
Maybe. So, let's move on. And let's talk about Anton Yelchin.
Yeah, I knew we had to talk about this. I'm not entirely happy about it, but
No.
we have to talk about it.
So, Anton Yelchin is an actor probably best known for his role as Ensign Chekhov in the Star Trek films. And last week, I want to say it happened like Saturday or maybe Sunday, he was killed in an accident, an auto accident. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but he was pinned by his own car or something like that. Really tragic. He was very young. Did I say that already? He was 27 years old. So he was a really good actor. I've seen him in Star Trek, and Star Trek Into Darkness. He doesn't really have his moment to shine, I don't think. But I saw another movie with him in it called... I think it was called Lords of Dogtown. No, he was in a movie called Alpha Dog. That's what it was called. And... yeah, so I don't know if you guys heard it just a second ago, but Brandon said he died on Sunday. And... yeah, so it's just really tragic. He was really cut off in his prime. I feel like his acting career had really could only go up from where he was, because, you know, he didn't have a ton of huge roles. I was just looking at his IMDb page. He was the main character in this movie called Charlie Bartlett, which I haven't seen, but I know is pretty popular, or was well regarded when it came out. So... yeah, it's just really sad.
Yeah.
So our condolences to his family, whatever. I don't think he was married or anything. Let's move on. Some happier news. So Linda Carter was announced to be coming to the television show Supergirl.
Yeah, which I was very surprised about.
Yeah, so the reason this is interesting is that Linda Carter played Wonder Woman in the 70s Wonder Woman TV series. Not very well known, or well remembered at least, TV show. So the CW, at least with Flash, kind of has this little theme going, I guess. So in the Flash show, Barry Allen's father, Henry Allen, is played by, I don't know what the actor's name is, but he played the Flash in the, 90s TV Flash series. And yeah, so he plays Barry Allen's dad. So they like to do these little callbacks. Now, I don't know if Linda Carter is going to be playing Wonder Woman. I doubt it, because we know approximately how old Superman is. You know, he's in his 30s. We talked either last week or the week before about... no, it was last week, about how they cast this new dude to be Superman next season. So it would be weird if we got a 30-year-old Superman and a 50 or 60-year-old Wonder Woman. That would be strange. But I don't know who she's going to play. Do you have any theories?
No. Mostly because I haven't seen the show.
Yeah, I haven't
and
seen
also
it
because
either.
it's just like...
do you mean Supergirl or Wonder Woman?
Both.
Oh, okay.
It's just like the same problem that we're running into with Spider-Man Homecoming.
Uh-huh.
We just don't know.
Yeah.
I would assume, though, that if they were able to get her on the show, it's not going to be a small role.
Right.
It might be a minor character, but definitely not a small role.
Yeah. So, very intriguing, I must say. But
I'm
as
glad
far
she
as
agreed to
predictions, I don't know.
I'm very glad she agreed to it, though.
Yeah.
I like it when old, actors of franchises come back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think we'll get a Wonder Woman spin-off show and we'll have another DC TV show on the CW?
I don't know about Wonder Woman, but I would assume we'd probably get another, DC show on the CW. Who would you want?
We talked about this, like, on the first episode.
I know, but who would you want? Just to reiterate. Besides...
From DC or from Marvel?
DC.
Just DC.
I don't think we ever talked about DC.
We probably did.
Maybe.
Yeah, because didn't you say you wanted a Martian Manhunter show? Even though he's already on Supergirl? Spoilers.
I still would want a Martian Manhunter show.
Let's see. DC character that I would want. So they're... Well, I was going to say they're doing, underrated or lesser known heroes, but Flash is definitely not in that category. So I guess that kind of throws that out.
He has become a lot more popular since the show, though.
Maybe. I don't know. Flash is Flash. Like, you don't mess around with Flash.
So that's his entire rogue gallery.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I'm still going to say I really want a Green Lantern show.
Nice.
I just think that would work really well in the episodic format. But I don't know. They already have 4 shows, and until one of the shows, Arrow, goes off the air, I think it would be a bad idea for them to take on another DC TV show.
It makes sense.
What do you want?
Besides Martian Manhunter?
Yeah, besides Martian Manhunter.
Maybe Dr. Fate.
That could be interesting. So on Fox, on the last TV season, well, not this past one, but the season before, there was a show called Constantine, which dealt with a lot of the same...
Supernatural.
Yeah, it was very... he's fighting demons, and there were angels on the show, and stuff like that. And that show got canceled.
Which a lot of people were upset about.
Yeah, I don't know. I went back and watched it afterwards because the actor who played Constantine... Actually, no, it wasn't on Fox. It was on NBC, right?
I'll look it up, so you don't have to look it up.
Thanks. So... Well, whatever show it was on. So the actor who played Constantine on that show, he came onto Arrow for one episode.
I did hear about that, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to be caught up on Constantine, and so I watched it, and it was fine. I would say it was below average. I wasn't super duper into it, and so I wasn't too sad that I wasn't getting any more, but it was fine.
NBC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know where we were. What were we talking about? We were talking about Dr. Fate. Yeah, so because Constantine ultimately was canceled, I feel like they would want to shy away from the mystical, magical side of the comics. But, I mean, who knows? That was also NBC's first step into the DC TV
lineup.
Yeah. I mean, they had Heroes, which was obviously super popular, but,
Never saw it.
Me neither. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's move on. So, it was announced this week that Darth Vader is coming to Star Wars Rogue One.
Yay.
Who would have guessed?
I'm very happy about that. Unlike you, I'm very happy about that.
I'm not happy about it.
And also, James Earl Jones is playing the voice.
Yes.
Which is always a plus.
Definitely. It's going to be a sad day when he is no longer with us, and we're going to have a new Darth Vader.
Shut your damn mouth.
Anyway, but in addition to this news, what I think is more interesting is that they confirmed Forrest Whitaker's role in this movie, and he plays a character named Saw Gerrera.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a character who originated, I believe, in Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Yes, that's right.
So
I was very surprised about that.
I don't know anything about this, so I'm going to let Brandon go ahead and take over and give us some backstory.
So
without any spoilers.
Okay, I'm going to do my best. So, the character that he plays, Saw Gerrera, is a character in the Clone Wars during an arc where Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Anakin had to go to a planet called, I believe it's pronounced Onderon or something like that.
Alderaan?
It's not Alderaan. Shut up. But But essentially, it's a planet that has had their king usurped. So there's another king on the throne, and he has aligned the planet with the separatists. And there's this force of rebels on the planet, and they call the Jedi Council to help them. So they don't want to openly engage in war with the planet because they would have an insurgency on them there. So what the Jedi Council agreed to do is that they'll send Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan to go there and to consult the rebels in order to help them create a fighting force. And the character of Saw Gerrera is one of the main rebel leaders in the arc. He is a very rash, headstrong, prideful, very passionate rebel. And I'm very, very surprised that they brought him into into the movie, because it's one of the first times that an exclusive Clone Wars character has been brought into the light of the films. Something that really surprised me was the way that they portrayed him in the trailer, because in the trailer, he's questioning, I want to say maybe the main character or some other character, asking them, what are you going to do when they find you, and what are you going to become? Which is very different than his character in the Clone Wars TV show, because here he seems much more reserved, a little bit kind of defeated even, in that he no longer really has that fighting spirit in him anymore compared to what happened or how he was in the Clone Wars TV show.
So you're saying that everything changed when the Empire attacked?
Of course.
All right, well, like Brayden said, I think it's really interesting that they're bringing this not main series character into it. Now, Rogue One isn't really main series, so it kind of makes sense, but it's because it's a feature film, it's more main series than the Clone Wars, I would say. So I think it's cool that they're, kind of bridging those two, the animated universe with the film live action.
Because even though they say it's canon, this is the first time that one of the characters from the show has come onto the to the films.
Yeah. So cool stuff. So another casting announcement this week is that Bryan Cranston, the great and fearsome Heisenberg himself,
or the lovable, what's his name? Hal on Malcolm in the Middle.
That too. He is going to be playing Zordon in the upcoming Power Rangers film.
Which I was not expecting.
I was not expecting either. Now,
we couldn't get him as Lex Luthor, but we could get him as Zordon. How does that work?
Now, Bryan Cranston is actually a really talented voice actor.
He really is.
Well, I know his voice acting talent most from Batman Year One, where he voiced Commissioner Gordon. We talked about that a few episodes ago. I don't know if he's done anything else really big.
I'm not sure either. Which would surprise you, because he has a pretty epic voice.
Yeah, no, he has a very distinct, he can be really angry when he needs to, he can be soothing when he needs to, he can be comical when he needs to. He's just, I mean, he's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
So but his voice is very distinctive, and so he can, do whatever he needs to do with it.
So I think he matches the voice for Zordon.
Yeah, I can see it.
And it could be without too much alteration, because most of the time whenever you hear Zordon or see Zordon, he's digitalized.
Right.
So
wait, do they ever, is Zordon like a physical, is there an actual physical embodiment of Zordon? Really?
He's in the movie Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie with Ivan Ooze. It shows you his actual form.
What does he look like?
He's really old.
Okay.
And really pruny.
Okay. He always reminds me of, I guess this reminds me of him. I don't remember what his name is, but in the Superhero Squad show, there was this character voiced by Wayne Knight, who he had this cone-shaped head.
Yeah.
And he was this mad scientist or something. And so
Professor
Zordon.
Farnsworth?
No.
Good news, everyone.
Good news, everyone. So Zordon, because he's in that big tube with the gas and
Which
stuff.
apparently I found out he needs that to live.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, because like it's like a projection, and his face is like really like elongated. That he kind of looks like an egghead.
Yeah. I totally get that. I remember the first time I saw Zordon, I didn't get why. I didn't understand why they needed to talk to a giant head. It was just mind-boggling.
There's really no reason.
Yeah, but Bryan Cranston.
Yeah,
he holds down the bald look pretty well.
Yeah.
So that he's got that going for him already.
You think they'll go all the way and give him a goatee?
Maybe. You never know.
We can only hope.
It's like Alpha's like, aye, Zordon, the danger is here. Alpha, I am the danger. We do not need to call the Power Rangers. I will take care of it.
Oh my gosh. If nothing else, we'll get a fan movie or something.
Yeah. Ooh, you know who could play Lord Zed?
Who?
Gus.
Say my name.
That's the way you become a Power Ranger?
All joking aside, Breaking Bad is really good.
Watch it. Yeah. Definitely watch it.
And then you can enjoy the memes with us. Okay, so just a few more things to cover. So, actually, you might want to look at a picture of this. So, this last week, San Diego Comic-Con is coming up really soon. It's in a few weeks. And so, if you don't know what that is, somehow, it's...
Why are you even listening to our podcast?
Seriously, why? San Diego Comic-Con...
Was that a little harsh?
No, it's totally true.
Good.
Comic-Con is basically the nerd center of the world. Like, it celebrates all things nerdy, kind of like this, but better.
I mean, I don't know. We can cosplay one day in our costume.
Yeah, but nobody would be able to see us.
We'll take a picture and post it on social media.
But anyway, so Comic-Con is in San Diego, obviously, and so there's promotion for everything everywhere. And on one of the trolleys in San Diego, they had the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so like the title of the show, and then the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo. And then blazing across the side of the trolley, there was a flaming chain. Now, Brandon, why don't you give your first thought on what you think of when you see this image?
I want to find some other explanation, but I can't help it. The first thing that comes to my mind is Kratos.
Okay, that's
I'm kidding. Ghost Rider.
Okay,
you have to admit, Kratos has flaming chains too.
Yeah, but there's blades on the end of them.
I mean, you never know. What if Kratos comes into the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
That would be pretty awesome.
And he needs to kill Thanos. I know it's like very far away connected. But he finds a new god he has to kill.
He kills gods. That's his thing.
Anyways, no, it's very reminiscent of Ghost Rider. And that's what a lot of people were assuming when they saw it. It had to be Ghost Rider.
Yeah, so anyway, fortunately for you, Brandon, I have an alternative explanation.
Okay.
So, I won't go into any spoilers, but there was a character introduced in Season 3, and I don't remember his name, but he has the power to infuse objects with energy, basically. It's like, if you are familiar with the character Gambit from the X-Men, it's very similar to that, but whereas Gambit's... Actually, yeah, I think everything that Gambit does, they explode, right?
Pretty sure, I think so.
Yeah, so this character, basically, he touches stuff and then it explodes. And so there's one scene in the show where he grabs like a chain and he uses his power on it and it becomes all flamey and stuff. So I find that to be a much more plausible explanation for this particular trolley image.
Because I don't know how Ghost Rider would even fit into the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. lore.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird choice.
It'd be coming from left field.
No, yeah, it definitely would be, but at the same time, I feel like that character is really not that major. Now, so he's a bad guy in the show, but I guess he could join the agents, the S.H.I.E.L.D. team, but that would be really weird. So I just feel like there's more to this image than just that character's flaming chain power.
Well, that's the joy about having promotional art. You can speculate, you can assume. It's all part of the
yeah,
fun.
but I mean, wouldn't it be really awesome if it was Ghost Rider?
Wouldn't it be awesome if it was Kratos?
Yeah, it would be.
Thanos!
So, yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, let's move from Marvel to DC. And let's talk about the gameplay trailer for Injustice 2. The long extended version that we mentioned last week, but we didn't watch or talk about. Did you watch it?
I did.
Oh,
Yes.
awesome. Okay, so we got a few more insights into what's going on. So there are a total of 6 characters in this
Demo.
demo. And actually, interesting story. I read an article where they used character headshots of characters who will be in the game, but they also, in order to throw people off, they included headshots of famous characters from movies. So there's one screenshot or headshot in the character selection that's blacked out, and he's wearing a very distinctive cowboy hat. And so the guy who was writing the article, playing the game, he thought it was Jonah Hex, but then he asked the guy about it, and he said it was actually Clint Eastwood's character from the movie A Fistful of Dollars.
Nice.
So,
very nice.
yeah, but I think a Jonah Hex character could be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Problem is that in Mortal Kombat X, there was this character named Aaron Black who is very, very similar. He's a outlaw gunslinger dude. So, probably we're not going to get a Jonah Hex, unfortunately.
Maybe one day.
Did you ever see the Jonah Hex movie?
I did. The one with Josh Brolin?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see it.
You mean Thanos?
Yeah.
It was not. It's not a great movie, but I thought it was good.
I heard it was. I heard it was
It was enjoyable.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this Injustice trailer. So there were 6 characters, and overall, I have to say I walked away with a more negative impression of the game. What about you?
For me, it wasn't anything awe-inspiring. It plays pretty much the same way that the original one did.
Yeah.
And I'm between the two of us, I'm the more optimistic one.
That's true.
So I'm just holding out with the fact that, it's a demo, so they don't want to show us everything in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely see that, some things play a little bit more faster. The resolution on some parts is much more sharper. So, I mean, that's customary for, a new game in the series. But other than that, it plays pretty much the same way that the original one did.
Yeah. So there were 6 characters, like we already said. So there's 3 returning characters: Batman, Superman, Aquaman. And then 3 new characters: Atrocitus, Supergirl, and Gorilla Grodd. So we'll start with the returning characters. They had different looks, they were visually different, so that's, fine. I talked last week about Aquaman's design and how I wasn't really much of a fan, mostly compared to, by itself, I'm not super positive on it, but especially compared to his design in the first Injustice game, which I liked a lot. This one really doesn't do a lot for me. But the other Superman and Batman, they look
fine.
Yeah. A few changes to the costume and stuff, but overall, they're the same. And so their traits were all the same too. So in the first Injustice game, every character has this, what's called the character trait, and every character's trait is different. They're really varied. It's hard to really even, sum up what a trait does in one succinct sentence, because they're so varied. But basically, it's something that you can activate, and it will boost the character's playing ability in some form, and it will recharge over time, so it's not like a one-use thing. So the 3 returning characters, their traits were all the same, so that was fine. And we also saw their super moves, and I have to say that I didn't really like any of their new super moves that they showed.
Why is that?
Well, Superman's was still really boring in my opinion.
See, I feel like his was a lot better than what it was in Injustice.
It really struck me as the same, except instead of going straight up, he knocks them up and then to the side and then back down.
I mean, he does a lot more than what he did. He just originally he just punched him in the air.
Yeah, but it's still the same. He's still in the air and he's still punching.
I mean, I agree with that, but
juggle
it's still at least a
combo,
little bit more than what we got.
I guess. And then Batman's, he ties.
It's kind of pretty much the same thing. Just a little bit more different. He still uses his vehicle.
Yeah, so he ties a balloon to the opponent's feet, and then they fly up into the air.
When you finally describe it, it's pretty funny.
And they fly up into the air, and then Batman somehow gets in the bat wing, and he shoots the character.
I think
and then
is he in it or is he just activated?
I think he's in it.
See, out of the three of them, I like Aquaman's the best.
Yeah, I definitely do too. So then Aquaman's, in the first game, what he does is he summons you to Olympus, basically.
Olympus.
Or not Olympus. Why did I say that? Atlantis. And he hits you with his trident a couple times, and then this giant great white shark comes and chomps you, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And now in this one, he how would you describe it? He hits you with the trident, and then you're transported to over the ocean, and there's
isn't it a whirlpool?
Yeah, there's this. Oh, maybe that is it. The whirlpool, I don't know. You're above some body of water, and there's a whirlpool beneath you, and he hits you with the trident, and there's lightning hits it, and so he hits you, and then this giant dinosaur sea monster thing kind of launches out of the water and grabs you. So I like it better than the first one, but it's still really similar. He's still hitting you with trident, there's still water, there's still a giant sea monster that bites you at the end. So I don't know. Anyway, then the new characters, also I was kind of disappointed. Yeah. So
I was especially disappointed with Gorilla Grodd.
Oh, yeah. I was mostly disappointed with Atrocitus.
Really? I think out of all of them, he had the best one.
Just the super move?
Oh, wait. Him or... Actually, it's a tie between him or Supergirl.
So, let's talk about them individually. I guess we can start with Atrocitus. So, last week, we were talking about this move where Atrocitus gets the opponent down on the ground and spews blood on them. And so I said that was going to be his grab. And that's actually incorrect. In most fighting games, Injustice included, there is a one-button grab move that characters have. But there's another thing called a command grab that acts... So, essentially, it's still a grab because you grab the opponent, but instead of a single button move, it's a it's a combination of button presses. That's some technical fighting game lingo for those of you out there who aren't familiar with the fighting game community scene. And so this is a command grab. It's not a simple one button grab. It's the whole thing. So that was different. I wanted to correct that. And so his character power, I thought, was very interesting. He summons a member of the Red Lantern Corps, Dexstar, who is a Red Lantern cat from Earth, who I forget his whole backstory, but basically he just had a really bad life and he wanted to kill everybody, and so he was given a Red Lantern ring. And so
Atrocitus is a cat person.
Yep. So, Atrocitus in this game, he summons Dexstar to fight alongside him temporarily, and so Dexstar can either shoot little red laser blasts, or he does this lunge move at the opponent. So, seems like it could be useful for, dealing damage or setting up combos and stuff, so that's pretty interesting. His super move, I was very disappointed in.
Why?
It was just really... It didn't use enough of the constructs, because that was what was so great about Green Lantern, was how he used all these different things to fight his opponents as a Green Lantern would. But Atrocitus, his move, I forget exactly what happens, but they're on this rocky planet sort of thing, and he hits them around a bunch, and then he finishes it off by summoning this giant boar, which we saw in the short sizzle reel trailer. and the boar smashes against them, and that's the end of it. And I just wanted to see
Actually,
him.
after he hits you, he spews out the blood.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
He shoots the blood at you, and you crack into the ground.
Okay. Well, regardless, I wanted to see more creative uses of the Red Lantern ring, and I just feel like the super move is a really good chance to do that, and they didn't deliver.
That's understandable.
Anyway, moving on. Supergirl. Not a whole lot to say about her. She, like we said last week, she fights pretty similar to Superman, and that didn't really change here. So I couldn't really tell what her character trait was doing. I know it had something to do with her laser vision, but other than that, it's hard to say exactly. And then her super move, I thought, her super move, what she does is she launches her opponent into space, she flies them around the sun, and then she blasts them with her laser vision back down to the arena. And that is almost a carbon copy of General Zod's super move in the first Injustice
Pretty
game.
similar, I'm not going to lie.
Except instead of flying the opponent around the sun, he flies them around the moon. So it just seems really... I'm sure they didn't do it on purpose, but it seems like lazy design. Like they just copied that.
Well, the good thing is it's still fairly early, so they can fix whatever these things. Maybe they'll listen to the fans.
Maybe. I don't know.
Start petitioning.
Yeah, and then the last one is Gorilla Grodd. He, did some combos. It looked like he had some cool, grab move things. His character power, again, or trait, I couldn't really tell what it was doing. It had something to do with mind control, but I don't know if it was just like powering up his mind control moves or what was happening. But yeah, and then his super move was really not that interesting at all.
He bashes you around for a couple of minutes. I mean, a couple of seconds, and then he finishes off with some kind of psychic attack.
Yeah. And so then the last thing that I noticed that I wanted to complain about was the interface on the screen, like in the fights, it was really boring looking to me. The way it looks in the first game is really slick looking. Everything looks great. In this game, it just looks really bland. Now, this is very early on in the game. It's it's the early demo, so there's plenty of time to change that, and I really expect them to, but, I want to see that level of detail and polish in the final version of the game. And then just a couple of other things. They showed off a few level transitions, so we know those are coming back for sure. Those looked cool. They didn't show off any of the clashes in this trailer.
The clashes, actually, I saw one clash between
Oh, really?
Aquaman and Batman.
I don't remember.
It was a different video.
Oh.
It's not as exciting as the first one. I'll give you that much. Because in the first one, the two characters, depending on if they're doing an offensive or defensive capability,
Yeah.
they'll banter with each other.
Right.
Then they'll charge at each other, and then they'll attack each other. And depending on who has, who pressed the correct buttons or who had,
Well, who wagered more of their meter?
and also who had a better chance of doing things. Yeah.
No, it's just...
No, yeah, who had a better chance with like their meter.
Okay.
Either way, it finalized in this big clash, and somebody ended up losing damage. In this one, the two characters, they're pushing against each other with Aquaman and Batman. They're just kind of they're just pushing against each other. They'll say a couple of customized lines with each other, then they push each other back, and that's about it.
Yeah, and then the last thing that I want to talk about is the character customization. We've been talking about the armor and stuff, and so they do show off. They equip Supergirl with an item, or maybe a few, and what they showed, I thought, looked kind of lame, to be honest. Like, it was a minor difference, and it didn't really change much, like, visually. But, what they did equip her with, I didn't really like. And, this was a very limited selection of what they were going to show, and there's going to be tons of more armor in the game. But, yeah, I don't know. It's, like we said last week, I'm probably not going to mess around with that stuff all that much. So I guess that's it for Injustice update this week. But there'll probably be more next time. So okay, and then the last news item we have for this week is we are going to talk about the Justice League movie. So they revealed the logo for the movie. I guess we can start there. What do you think?
It's fine to me. It's what I would expect from a Justice League movie. It wasn't anything extravagant or extreme. In fact, it was pretty simple.
Yeah.
Which I'm totally fine with.
Yeah. Really not much to say about it. There's a star for an eye in Justice.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fine.
Which I'm okay. I like the simpler things better. That's just me though.
I guess. And then they also revealed some of the plot details and the name of the villain.
Yes. So you do plot details, I'll do villain.
Okay. So in the plot detail, it was a short, maybe 3 or 4 sentence long description of what's going to happen in the movie, and it does not reveal much.
Which is a good thing. It's a very good thing.
Yeah. So what I found interesting was that it doesn't make any mention of Superman. It mentions the other heroes: Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and Flash. So Batman and Wonder Woman were in the movie, and then in Batman vs Superman we had those 3 tiny little reveals of those other 3 characters. And who knows where Superman is? I guess we'll see how that plays out.
Probably just still taking a nap in his coffin.
Why you always have to spoil things? I tried to leave it ambiguous, and then you just had to go and blab about it. Yeah, Superman's dead. I have no doubt that he's gonna come back to life in the movie, but why they chose to, make it seem like he's not, I don't know. So I would have thought that would be the first thing that would happen in the movie, was that he comes back to life. But this makes it seem like it won't happen towards, the middle or the end of the movie.
I'm actually okay with that.
I am too.
Because it shows what would happen if the Justice League had to function without Superman.
Yeah.
It could function, but he's a key player.
Yeah. So basically what the plot description says is that Batman and Wonder Woman recruit the other 3 to join the League, and there's a threat from beyond the solar system or something like that. And that threat would be...
So the name of the villain is... I'm probably going to mispronounce this. It's either pronounced Steppenwolf or Stephen Wolf, which is a very strange villain name. I'm aware of that. He comes from the planet Apocalypse, so essentially the Justice League need to cancel the Apocalypse.
Oh my gosh.
He is actually the uncle of Darkseid, who is a major villain in the DC universe. And apparently there's, in the deleted scenes of Batman vs Superman, there are holographic images of Stephen Wolf. Stephen Wolf, however you say his name. He's not very well known, but from what I researched for his powers, he's essentially very powerful. He's on par or just a little bit weaker than Darkseid. But I like it because it gives us an introduction to Apocalypse. The planet Apocalypse, where Darkseid rules.
It's spelled weird.
Yeah.
So.
Apparently the Parademons are going to come back.
And boom tubes.
Yes, boom tubes.
I like boom tubes just because it's fun to say.
Dude, I've noticed that the words on Apocalypse are really weird.
Like what?
Well, first off, this guy's name is Stephen Wolf. Apocalypse is fine. I have no problem with. Parademons is fine. Boom tube is really weird because...
But it's fun to say.
It is fun to say. I wouldn't think an extremely serious, deadly character like Darkseid would name something Boom Tube. Can you imagine him just saying Boom Tubes constantly?
Yeah.
And then just some...
If you don't know, boom tubes are a form of teleportation in the DC universe.
They're portals that take you throughout.
Essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. Just him saying boom tubes. It's just... It's like if Thanos started saying chimichangas. But yeah, I think he's gonna be a very, very good villain to have against the Justice League. Because at this point you have minus Superman. How many characters is that? Like five superpowered beings who can level cities to the ground. You're gonna need somebody extremely powerful to take them on.
And we're gonna get a surprise member to come fight with them.
Of course.
Perhaps someone from Mars?
Marvin. Oh, Marvin. Why did I say Melvin? Dang it.
Melvin is on Daredevil.
I was thinking of somebody entirely different. Yeah, but Marvin.
Yeah.
It was like, hello.
That would be sick.
Choop choop. And it turns out it's actually Martian Manhunter in disguise.
Well, that's pretty much it for Justice League.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of excited for this.
I'm not.
Hey, man.
It comes out next year, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so now we're going to get into our final topic for the show before we do our emails and Kevin segment and all that. And this is a segment I've wanted to do for a while, but just because things have been, like, there's been a lot of news and stuff, we haven't really had time, but we're finally getting around to doing it. And so we're going to talk about our childhoods and how they formed to make us the nerds that we are today.
Okay. Coming onto this podcast, you at no point told me that I would have to open up and be vulnerable about my past.
Okay, now let me...
Or give private information about myself.
Let me make this very clear. Brandon and I are not here to talk about any lingering issues that we have from our childhood. So you're not going to hear me talk about how my parents used to lock me in the basement anytime I made eye contact with them. You're not going to hear Brandon talk about how his dad woke him up by putting out cigarettes on his skin. None of those kind of sob stories. We're just talking about the nerdy things that were influential in our childhoods and how they affected us to how we are today.
One thing I will say from my childhood was that I was given the chancla. Were you given the chancla?
No.
Okay. I was given the chancla.
Okay, well, that's not what we're here to talk about.
I know, but that's one piece of my past I will always share to people.
Great.
To know that you need to fear the chancla.
Oh, that's definitely true.
It's very true. I'm 21 and my mom still throws it at me.
Wow. Why do you go home so much then?
I don't go home that much. I go home like once a month.
Okay, if you say so. Anyway, so we're going to do this segment in 3 installments. So we're going to do from birth through elementary school, and then middle school, and then high school.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we can do college too.
Yeah,
so I guess 4 installments.
That's where we got to know each other.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, so this first one is going to be through elementary school. So you graduate from 5th grade when you're, like 11?
Something like that.
Yeah, so around that age. So this is going to be our longest spanning, but, I feel like the first 3 or 4 years of your life, you don't really know much,
yeah.
So I guess I'll get started first. So a huge part of my childhood was the computer games that I played. So I didn't own a home video game console until the Wii. So that was when I was in high school, and we're not talking about that yet. So the games that I played, so I had a Game Boy and a Game Boy Color for elementary school, but most of the games that I played were on the computer. So a lot of I played the crap out of the first 3 Harry Potter games for PC. Those are so much fun. I don't know if my parents' computer at home would still play those games, because I would definitely love to go back and play them. They're very faithful. They're more faithful to the books than the movies.
Yeah, they definitely have movie elements, but they have a lot more involvement with the books.
Like, for example, in the first one, when you go, like, in the final scene, when you get past Fluffy and all that to get the Sorcerer's Stone.
I forgot about Fluffy.
In the movie, they don't make any mention of the potions riddle or fighting the troll or anything like that. In the game, you do have to find the potion, but I don't think you fight the troll. And so just stuff like that. The one that I played the most was probably the second one. I think I played that one more than the other two. And not for any particular reason. It was just a lot of fun. There was a lot of Quidditch in that game. In the first game, well, wait, no, I'm getting all confused. No, in the second game, it worked really weird. It was like almost impossible to win. Like, you could buy different brooms, and no matter how many, like, even if you had the best broom, like, it was still weird to control. But yeah, those games were a ton of fun. Another computer game that I played a lot was the Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup game. Actually, that might have been middle school. I don't know. And then I played a lot of Rayman 3, Hoodlum Havoc. That game was so much fun. Really, really fun. If you don't know who Rayman is, he's this weird character who has hands and feet but no arms or legs, so they're like, yeah, they're just like kind of hanging there, and so he has like really far reach with his punches and stuff. And so in this game he has these power-ups where he gets these like costumes that power him up. So like there's one where he gets metal spiky knuckles that make his punches super powerful. There's another one where he has like these chains with like jaws in the end of them, and they're like have like electrical powers. There's another one where you have this missile fist. There's another one where you're like a super helicopter and you can fly up super high. And there's another one where you can throw tornadoes. I think those are all the power-ups. But anyway, that was just a really, really fun game. I played a lot.
So for me, this is a tough one because we're doing the entire span of elementary school, right? And there's a lot of things for me that were very critical to shaping my nerdiness. I watched a lot of TV, a lot of Cartoon Network back when I had cable. I loved Cartoon Network. Until we lost it, and that sucked. I loved cartoons. I loved animation. I loved movies. As you can tell from many times I've talked about, I have this real problem where I get sucked into whatever I'm doing, be it movies, television, video games, podcasts. I would have to say the thing that influenced me the most probably were my toys, though, because I have a very active, big imagination. And one thing I always loved doing was bringing my toys into this world and pretending they were real. And I would have my Power Rangers on one side come into the world and collide with Digimon, and they would team up and they would go fight the bad guys, and then they would end up somehow fighting stormtroopers, and then these pack of velociraptors would come and start fighting, and then the velociraptors would get armor, and it's stuff like that would happen, which looking back made no sense. But those were some of the best things that I ever had as a kid, because I didn't get a computer until probably later in elementary school, and even then it wasn't the best computer. And I did have a PlayStation and a Nintendo, but a lot of times for me, I just needed something to stimulate my imagination, and I would always go back to my toys for that. So I would have to say for me, it was definitely my toys. And when Bionicle came out, that was just like the end of me. So many Bionicles.
Bruh.
So many Bionicles. I spent hours at a time. And my mother would come and she'd be like, what is so intriguing to you about these things? And I would explain to her the backstory, and she would just totally go over her head. And she would have no idea what I was talking about. And I remember one time she tried to play with me, and she thought she broke it, and she really started freaking out. I'm like, oh, I have to buy another one. And once she saw me put it together, she at that point tried to give up, trying to understand how I function as a kid. But for me, I gotta go with my toys. Toys have always been a big part of my life. Even though I stopped playing with toys, I wouldn't actually even say I stopped playing with toys. I didn't get to play as much as toys when I entered middle school because I had so much work to do and so many extracurricular activities. But I still have my toys, and every now and then I would just like bust them out and start playing with them. And even now, I'm 21, and I still, first thing I do when I go into a Walmart or a Target, I straight up go to this toy section and I start exploring to see what they have. And I still buy toys. Not only do I buy Funko Pops, I buy a bunch of different action figures. I'm about to buy a Black Panther action figure, actually. So, what can I say? I'm still a big kid at heart.
Yeah, so I played with toys a lot too. I owned lots of Bionicle.
Yeah.
I definitely collected those. For I think the last ones I got was, Brandon can probably tell you what this is called. I have one where it's blue and brown, and it has these giant like blade things, like instead of arms, and it has regular feet. And that's the last one I remember getting.
Blue and brown, it has blades.
Yeah, I want to. It might have pincers too. No, anyway, it's not important. So yeah, I collected lots of Bionicles. As far as Legos go, we had like, you know, a big Lego bucket thing that we just kind of added to, but I didn't play with Legos so much. I played a lot with Duplo because my brother is 8 years younger than I am, so you know, around the age when he was playing or getting ready to start, you know, getting to the building phase, we had Duplo, and so I was playing with those. And my favorite thing to do with the Duplo, well, if you don't know what Duplo is, I believe it's owned by Lego, and the Duplo are essentially bigger versions of Lego bricks, basically so kids can't choke on them. So I would play with those, and my favorite thing to do was to make planes, like jets, because the pieces that they had just worked really well, and because they were so much bigger than Lego, they were easy to, you know, fly around and visualize and stuff. So those were a ton of fun. And then for other toys, I had this big square green styrofoam block. It was just a flat square, and then on the edges, maybe, I don't know, like an inch or two thick, there was a raised guard rail thing. I want to say it came from a computer box, but I actually don't know where it came from. And so every Saturday morning, before cartoons started, I would get that thing out, and I would get out all my toys, and I would play toy chess with them. So I would line up 2 rows of a bunch of toys, like, you know, the more powerful toys in the back and then the less powerful ones in the front on each row, and I would just, you know, have them beat the crap out of each other, basically. And I did that for years, and I don't know what happened to that styrofoam thing. We definitely don't still have it, which is a shame. I'm sure somebody threw it away, which is too bad, because I would love to give that to my kids someday, but alas. What else? Oh, I forgot some other computer games I used to play, but I didn't own. Well, actually, I did own one of these games, but these 3 games were at school. It was Bugdom.
Oh my god! Yes.
So Bugdom, the story was your girlfriend was kidnapped by these ants, and so you had to go back, and you were this little pill bug, and so you could roll around and launch into enemies, and
basically a bug version of Sonic.
Yeah, basically. So you were rolling around and running around, and there was 10 levels, but it was super hard. I don't know if I ever beat it without cheats, like to get to the last level, but yeah, it got really difficult. And I remember there was this one level where you rode on this dragonfly, and so you were like flying around, like shooting down enemies, and it was crazy. But yeah, that was the game that I owned because I played it at school so much. I loved it. And then another game that we had at school was called Nanosaur. So the premise behind this game is that you are a time-traveling velociraptor who is equipped with a multifunctional gun attached to your arm and a jetpack. And your goal is to find 5 eggs and take them back to these nests and transport them back to the future. And you have to do this in 5 minutes because the asteroid that came and killed all of the dinosaurs was imminently about to hit the Earth. And so you had to, you know, rescue the dinosaurs so that you can further your species or something like that. And so I remember that in my class, we could all see that the dinosaur had a jetpack, but no one knew how to fly it. And so we thought that it was for, you know, just cool visual effects. But I had the bright idea of pausing during the game and reading the instructions, and I found out how to fly. And so that was what made it possible to beat the game, because you weren't very fast on your feet. Like, you had to fly to get around, and like, even though you had a limited amount of fuel, I think it like recharged over time, but you had to fly in order to move faster and get all the eggs in time. So I don't know if I was the first one to beat it, but I was definitely the one to discover how the jetpack worked. So that's still one of the biggest accomplishments in my life, which should tell you about how much I've accomplished with my life so far. And then the other game was called Mario Fundamentals, and it was just a Mario themed versions of chess, checkers, backgammon, Go Fish, and one more. There was a fifth game. I don't know what it was. Now it's going to bother me. But anyway, what else to say? So cartoons were a huge part of my childhood. Arthur was the bomb. What else did I watch? Pokemon. Watched a ton of Pokemon. Watched a ton of Digimon. I mean, we talked about a lot of this, so I won't harp on it too much. I mean, we didn't talk about Arthur, but I feel like everyone and their mother has watched Arthur. Let's see. I watched a lot of Sesame Street, and then when my brother was, old enough to watch Sesame Street, I was still in elementary school, so I ended up watching Sesame Street for longer than most people did, because I also have a sister who is 3 years younger than I am, so there might have been a few years where the two of us were too old to watch Sesame Street, but then my brother was born and he got old enough to watch it, so then we were watching it again. So there was, like a good 12 years where there was just always Sesame Street on in the morning, and that was fun. What else do I have to say? Do you have anything else you want to add?
So because I didn't have cable, a lot of what I ended up watching was PBS shows. So in addition to Arthur and Sesame Street, sometimes those would come on in the morning. When I would come back from school, I would just turn on the TV, and if the WB 39 cartoons weren't on, I would watch PBS cartoons, and I would watch Between the Lions, Zaboomafoo. There was this show called Cyber Chase. Love that show.
I want to say that I didn't start watching Cyber Chase until like middle school. That's why I didn't bring it up.
Yeah. And the thing with those shows were that they had some form of education connected to them. So I credit that as to why I always have an inherent love of learning. I don't always show it, and sometimes when I'm at school or in class, I don't really show it like that. But I really do love to learn.
Well, I mean, not to get off topic of our childhood thing, but there's a huge difference between liking learning and liking school.
See, the thing is, I do like school too.
Ew.
Yeah. So those shows were a huge part of my life, though. And just like Alex, we're still in elementary school, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's definitely when cartoons... I didn't watch them for artistic appreciation or anything like that. I watched them because I just loved seeing cartoons and whatnot. I did get really, really attached to them. So when a cartoon would end, I would just be so sad. And I realize now, while I'm talking, why I get so sad when I finish a show on Netflix. It just continues from my childhood. Oh my gosh. Such therapy. What else can I say about that? I remember, because I watched so much Power Rangers, and a lot of my upbringing had a lot of martial arts and Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee. I always would play fight, so I had so many toy swords. It was ridiculous. Every time I went to the dollar store, I would come out with a toy sword. And I would just be flipping around the room, swinging my sword. I'm surprised I never broke anything or hit anybody really, really hard. So when my brother was born, naturally, of course, I thought I had another fighting buddy. And for the most part, I did, until there were times where...
Wait, tell me your brother's name.
My brother's name? My brother's name is Bruce. My name is Brandon. I don't know this for sure, but I feel that we were named after Brandon and Bruce Lee. I was never confirmed that by my parents. I feel like that's the truth. I've yet to see. But yeah, imaginations and toy swords were a huge part of my life, more than I would care to admit, but yeah. And when my brother got older, a lot of the sword fights got a lot more intense. A lot of swords started breaking. So we constantly had to upgrade our arsenal and armory. It's pretty cool. And I also slowly started getting into Lord of the Rings. Believe it or not, I read The Lord of the Rings when I was in 4th grade, all 3 books. And I saw the movies also, so a good part of my doodles, I still have the notes I have from 4th grade, were covered with pictures from Lord of the Rings. I have a bunch of mini Gandalfs, a bunch of little ring wraiths in my notes. It was ridiculous.
So I am not the world's biggest Lord of the Rings fan, but I read The Hobbit when I was in 5th grade, and then I read the Fellowship of the Ring when I was in middle school. But another huge part of my childhood, or my elementary school age, was also books. Nowadays, because I have such limited amount of time, I don't read as much as I should, and that's been that way for a long time. But when I was younger, because, you know, I had more free time and whatnot, I devoured books. I read all the time. And the most important book series to me were, first of all, the Harry Potter books. You know, so I read, this is actually very funny. I was very resistant to the Harry Potter books for a long time. I don't remember when I first remembered hearing about the Harry Potter series. Do you know when the first book came out?
The first book?
It was, I want to say it was like 99, right?
I'll look it up.
Anyway, so I don't remember the first time I remember hearing about it, but when I was in 3rd grade, I needed some AR points. Now, if you don't know what AR is, it stands for Accelerated Reading, and basically what you did was, in order to ensure that you were reading enough books, you would read a book, certain books, and then you would take a quiz on the computer testing your knowledge and retention.
It originally came out in 1997.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you would take a quiz, and then you would get a certain amount of points based on the difficulty and like age level of the books. And so when I was in 3rd grade, I needed AR points, and because you had to have like a certain amount of AR points per 9 weeks. So anyway, so I needed AR points, and so I was like, well, fine, I'll give this stupid Harry Potter book a try, I guess, because, you know, they're long books, and so it was, the first one was worth a bunch of points. And I fell in love. I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. The world, the characters, you know, J.K. Rowling is just
amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing. And so the rest is history, as they say. Actually, funny story. So I read Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the 4th book, before I read Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Because, so I blew through the first one, and then I immediately moved on to the second one, and then so I was checking these out from like my teacher's like little classroom library, like I wasn't buying the books for myself.
Yeah.
And so the 3rd one, either she didn't have it or some kid had it, and I was like, I need to keep reading. So I just moved straight on to the Goblet of Fire. And in the 2nd chapter of the book, Harry writes a letter to Sirius, who's his godfather. I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, and I remember doing that with the Chamber of Secrets. I started with the Chamber of Secrets. And halfway through, I was like, this is good, but I don't know what any of this is. I was like, what is a Dumbledore?
Yeah.
What are the books? Because I was just like you. And it really pains me to admit that I don't read as much as I should. I used to love to read, and now whenever I pick up a book, I'm like, ugh. Not because I don't like to read, but because I know I just don't have the time to sit down and appreciate the book.
Yeah.
I remember one series of books from my childhood. It was called The Magic Tree House.
Oh, yeah.
What are the kids' names? Jack and Annie?
That sounds right.
Yeah. It was a brother and a sister.
Yeah.
And they come across this magic tree house, which transports them to different time periods throughout history.
Yeah.
And it was just awesome.
Yeah, there was this weird like subplot about a battle between Merlin and Morgan Le Fay, and it's really weird because usually Merlin is portrayed as the good guy. He's, you know, King Arthur's ally and everything, and then Morgan Le Fay is the evil witch. But in this series, Morgan Le Fay was the good guy, and Merlin was the bad guy.
Yeah, and then apparently when Merlin comes into the storyline, he's not evil. He's just misunderstood.
Oh, really?
And then they become allies, so everybody becomes this one big old happy family.
Yeah, I know for sure I read the first 20 of those books.
The thing is, there's so many of them, but they were so short, I just like blew right through them.
But I don't even know how many there were in there.
Oh, man.
I
think she's still writing them.
No way.
I feel like she is.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll look it up right now, but I feel like she is.
And then Goosebumps.
Oh, of course.
There was like a Goosebumps subscription where like every month they would like mail you 3 new Goosebumps books, and so I did that for a while. So I read a ton of Goosebumps books. And then the other big series that I was into was the Redwall books.
Oh, me too.
So
looking back on them now, those are kind of weird books.
They are pretty weird. So real quick breakdown or description of the Redwall series. It's about these woodland creatures who are sentient, like they walk and talk, and they are in this medieval era sort of setting. So, and there's, bad guys and good guys and knights and valor and battles, and there's all these different kinds of races, and they all have their own traits, and there's like this whole big continent, and I don't know, it's hard to describe, and I'm probably not doing a very good job of selling it, but I don't know, I read a ton of
they were
books.
they were interesting.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
I think that I was mostly fueled by AR points for those two.
Yeah, me too.
And I think I read those all the way through middle school.
And then there's also a series of unfortunate events.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Those, I feel bad for kids. Like, that was such a, like, cultural phenomenon.
It really was.
But it wasn't as big as Harry Potter. It was it was like a hipster kind of thing. It was like, if you don't know about it, like, you're not missing out. But, yeah.
I will admit, I'm not gonna lie. When the final 3 books came out, I was very confused.
Too. Yeah, that was where I dropped off too. Was the last 3.
I mean, I knew he wanted to do something like pseudo and just mind bending. He was trying to do an Inception with his books, but I just didn't understand.
Yeah, it got really convoluted.
But when they first came out, amazing. I loved it.
Can we name all of the books?
I cannot do that.
Okay, the first one was A Bad Beginning. The second one, I don't even remember.
Reptile Room.
Okay. The third one, was that the wood mill, or was that the fourth one?
That was the fourth one. The third one is at the lake with the leeches.
Oh, yeah, the
Lonesome Lake? I don't remember.
Something about cliff or something?
Or was it about the house?
I don't know.
Dang. But the fourth one was the mill.
Yeah.
The fifth one was about...
Was that the one where they go to that school?
I think so.
That was my least favorite one. That was the worst. When that one girl kept calling them cake sniffers.
Yeah, what was it? I actually remember her name, Carmelita Spats. Even her name was disgusting.
Yeah. And then
the sixth one was when... Oh my god, I don't remember. Was it the village one?
No, I don't remember.
Dude, I'm just gonna look this up at this point.
Okay, fine.
Alright, so it was The Bad Beginning, The Reptile Room, The Wide Window, The Miserable Mill, The Austere Academy,
Yeah.
The Erisatz Elevator, The Vile Village, The Hostile Hospital, The Carnivorous Carnival, The Slippery Slope, The Grim Grotto, The Penultimate Peril, and The End.
Yeah. Crazy stuff, man. Did you see the movie?
I did. It wasn't the best movie, but I enjoyed it for the sake of a movie.
Yeah.
But
I haven't heard this rumor in a while, but a while ago they were talking about it coming back as a Netflix series, which I think will work really well.
It'd be great. It would capture that grim atmosphere that it has. I haven't heard anything about it either, which sucks.
Do I have anything else to say about childhood? I mean, movies, I didn't really watch anything too special. A lot of Disney, DreamWorks, your basic stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about most of those movies on this podcast already, so I think that's pretty much it.
That's a pretty good...
Those are, the highlights.
Yeah.
This was a fun trip down memory lane.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, now we can cover some emails.
Yay, all 2 of them.
Hey, maybe we got more. No, we did not get more. So our first one is from Francisco Mandisco Flores. And he says, yo, so I've been thinking about this Spider-Man guy, but he ain't no real guy. What if Spider Guy with actual web shooters lick a Glock with webs in 'em shooting up the 7-Eleven for lotto tickets? Das my guy. Peace.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting departure. Actually, so the Venom symbiote,
Yeah.
we're all familiar with. If you don't know, it's this...
Spider-Man 3.
The Venom symbiote is this alien form which bonds to its host and gives the wearer... It covers them with this black liquid kind of thing. It forms this costume. And so Spider-Man wore it for a while, and a lot of his enemies have worn it. But in the comics currently, it is worn by Flash Thompson, Spider-Man's former bully, but now they're kind of friends and they work together. Anyway, but he's called Agent Venom because he actually works for the government because it somehow hasn't taken over his mind. But anyway, so he runs around in the Venom costume with guns, shooting. So maybe he shoots web and not bullets. That would make sense.
Bang, bang.
And then our other email is from Bruno. And he says, podcast music is great. Enough said. Thank you. It's always nice to be validated. So he says, I hope Donald Glover doesn't play Electro 2 Electric Boogaloo. Yeah, that would be a bad choice, but I don't think they would do that since we just had Electro in the last Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
I really hope he plays Uncle Ben's killer, but I don't think that's going to happen.
What?
I can see him and Martin Starr being lab workers where Spidey gets bit. Yeah, that would be funny. Like some slack
that
off.
would be funny, yeah.
Funny guys.
When Peter Parker gets bitten, Martin Starr's like, oh no, what do we do?
He says, most exciting thing about the Superman casting is that since now Supergirl is on the CW, will we see a Supergirl Superman Flash crossover? I hope so.
I could definitely see that. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but I can see that.
It's always possible. I don't think they would do that, at least not in this first season that Superman's going to be in, because...
Do you know how I feel like people will react to Superman when they see him? Because I feel like this part...
They're going to want him to get his own show.
No, actually, I meant... What I was going to say is, at this point in the continuity, it seems like he's established, I would assume.
In Supergirl's show? Yeah.
So, they would probably treat him like Captain America. You know how they always, like, touch him on the chest? I feel like they would do that with him.
Probably.
Like, can I touch your ass? I want to touch the hope.
And then he says, I'm currently playing the God of War 3 remaster on the PS4. So many spoilers.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We have a really bad habit on this show about that.
A little bit. And then for the fanfic fight, which we asked for last week, also, Kenzie didn't email us, so shame on her.
She's dead to me.
He says, Scrooge McDuck is for sure the richer than Mr. Burns. His room full of gold is probably worth trillions of dollars. And it's actually worth more than trillions of dollars, as I already pointed out earlier in the show. So, So, thank you for those emails. And you can always email us with your questions, comments, concerns, suggestions for segments, suggestions for fanfic fights, whatever you want. You can send us those ideas to abcpodcast92@gmail.com, and we will be happy to read it on the show. And so now we will move into our final segment of the show, the ever-popular Kevin segment, or fanfic fights. And this week we're going to have a battle of the big bad brutes, because it is the Incredible Hulk versus Doomsday.
Ooh, nice.
Now, I stole this idea from the Death Battle Twitter account. They were asking for potential matchups that people would like to see, and so I took that idea, and I wanted to do it before they do it so that we can have a winner, and then if no one tells us who they thought won, then we can base our arguments based off of what they do, if they end up doing that death battle in the future.
I feel like they would.
So, you want to rock, paper, scissors?
Sure. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
I'm going to go with the Hulk.
Okay. So, Doomsday. Doomsday is a Kryptonian abnormality created on Krypton. I forget how many years ago. Thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And he was essentially designed through pain and suffering. And the way that the scientists had engineered Doomsday to be was that he would just basically be able to evolve and learn from every time he was defeated or killed, which essentially renders him damn near immortal. And the thing is, which each time that happens to him, he gets stronger and stronger, which we see in Batman vs. Superman. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about that, but it's hinted at and you kind of tell from there.
So he's like a Saiyan?
Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, it's true.
That's true.
That ability has an official name, but it escapes me at the moment.
So Doomsday is extremely, extremely powerful. He's capable of destroying planets into pieces with his bare hands. He has caused multiple extinction level events on multiple planets. He was able to take down Superman. They had an entire event dedicated to the death of Superman from the actions of Doomsday. And guess what? Doomsday ends up coming back. Even Darkseid has been defeated by Doomsday. He said that there are very few things capable of withstanding his Omega beams, and he names Doomsday as one of them. Now, Doomsday, depending on how the writers make him and where he is in the storyline, his intelligence fluctuates at times. Sometimes he's just a mindless killing machine. Other times he has a certain amount of intelligence. Nothing incredibly smart like Batman level, but it's still fairly intelligent for what he is. In a fight with the Hulk, I'd say in strength, they're pretty equally matched. Now, the Hulk, he gets more powerful as he gets stronger, right? Now, that might give him an upper edge at certain times, but Doomsday is just going to come back and stronger than ever, and you can't defeat him in that same way. So they're going to be endlessly locked in a battle of fists and destruction, and I feel like at that point the universe is just going to end up destroying itself by the time that the two of them finish fighting, which is going to be never. But Doomsday essentially cannot be defeated. You can neutralize him for a short amount of time, but that's only going to hold him for a couple of minutes.
So Hulk would win this fight for one reason and one reason alone. Because Hulk is the strongest there is.
In the Marvel Universe.
Hulk is the strongest there is.
In the Marvel Universe.
Hulk is the strongest there is! And that's really all that matters.
Which Hulk are we using?
You didn't define a Doomsday, so I'm not going to define a Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, back away from my microphone. So, the Incredible Hulk was originated because Bruce Banner was a scientist working with gamma radiation, and an accident went horribly wrong, and Banner was blasted with gamma rays, and so he became the Hulk, which is this giant green monster who is bent on rampage and destruction and will destroy anything who attacks him or fights back. And the Hulk has fought many, many strong opponents, like the Abomination, like the Hulkbuster armor, like Thanos. Opponents who are arguably stronger than Doomsday. In terms of strength, not necessarily overall power, but in terms of brute strength. You could argue that Thanos is stronger than Doomsday. And Hulk has taken him down.
Thanos?
Yeah.
Thanos killed the Hulk.
What's your point? But then they used the Dragon Balls to wish him back. Much like Doomsday, Hulk's intelligence varies depending on the incarnation that the writers are working with. So, the Hulk is actually a really interesting character, and I won't go too much into it right now, but basically it's like a split personality between Banner and the Hulk. And so there are times when they are at odds because the Hulk thinks that Banner is puny and weak and doesn't have the will to fight. And Banner thinks that the Hulk is just this mindless machine who doesn't care about, life or anything. He just cares about destroying things. But other times they work in sync with each other, and they're almost like one person. And that's when Hulk's intelligence is at its highest, is when the two of them can work together for a common goal. So Hulk, his powers are based on his anger and his emotion and his adrenaline state. And the harder he fights, the angrier he gets, the stronger and the bigger he will become. And so the longer the fight goes on, the harder the Hulk will hit and the harder it will be to take him down. So he can destroy Doomsday after the fight has gone on long enough. And it most certainly will, because the Hulk is almost indestructible. He is impervious to bullets. He has a healing factor, like he will heal much, much more quickly than your normal average person. And so the fight would go on for a long time, like Brandon said. It would, there would be lots of collateral damage, but in the end, Doomsday has been defeated, and the Hulk has the strength to make that happen.
To be fair, though, the Hulk has been defeated as well.
I didn't say he wasn't. So we need you to tell us who you thought won our fight. You can email us, abcpodcast92@gmail.com. So before we go, just a couple quick things that we need to mention. So our movie that we're all watching is the movie Whiplash. We talked about it last time, don't have much to say. One thing I did forget to mention, though, is that this movie is rated R, definitely deservingly so. There isn't any, sex or nudity or anything like that. It's just a lot of yelling and cursing, a lot of really foul insults. So if you are easily offended by things like that, you have been warned. But it's a really, really good movie. Yeah. Very intense.
Keep up with the tempo.
So, but I felt that in the interest of fairness, that did needed to be pointed out. So we will be talking about that 2 weeks from now. We won't be talking about it next week because I'm going to be out of town, and so we won't be able to talk about it. But I'm not going to leave you guys without an episode. I've got something special planned, but you guys will hear all about that next week on the show.
If it works.
So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about that one. But that's it. So
social media?
Yeah, I was about to say that. So you can find me on Twitter at AtariAlex. You can also find links to the podcast, our YouTube page, and our iTunes page, as well as Brandon's Twitter account. It's in my bio. You can find it all there. You can also follow me on Instagram or Snapchat, also at AtariAlex. And I think that's all of my social media stuff. Do you want to tell them about anything?
Follow my blog. It's called Just a Walk in the Park. Hey.
Oh, that's so clever.
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, like you said, Twitter, Snapchat. Check out my Snapchat. I got attacked by a roach yesterday.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
It's ridiculous, man. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for my 2 videos that I have on there.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, ABC Podcast. And leave us an iTunes review. That's really important. I keep forgetting to say that, but when people leave iTunes reviews, it boosts our ranking in iTunes, and so it makes it easier for people to find us, and so our audience will grow, and maybe we can get more emails every week, hopefully. So yeah, please, if you like the show, please leave us an iTunes review. I would really, really appreciate it.
Ask us more questions too.
Yeah,
I want to see some of the things that we have to answer.
Yeah. So anyway, that is it. I enjoyed this show, no matter how long it went.
All 3 hours of it. We're coming up to almost
At 3 hours and a half.
Almost, but it won't be. So anyway, thank you all for listening, and we will catch you all next week.
Bye.